It's like three pillars in business. It's the visionary, the operator, and the founder.
When you say like there's a big shift happening in the HVAC industry, like what specifically are you referring to?
Incentives, politics, governments.
How'd you end up getting on that list of verified contractors?
You have to put in more money.
What would you say are some of the most important skills that you have and that you've learned?
You don't want to be in the business of ripping people off. The biggest scam in the world, clients coming to you, promising more business. That's a cliche in the trade world. Oh, give me a good deal. I got two other friends, two other family members, or I got a multi-unit.
Is there anything related to the sales process that I should have asked?
Like if you have a name that's not common and you're introducing yourself and you're telling the client, oh, that's how you spell it, and then you're spending the introduction on your name, you're losing business and you're losing traction.
Hey guys, before we jump into today's episode, I wonder if you could do me a super quick favor. So most of the people that watch our videos are not actually subscribed to our YouTube channel. So if you could take 2 seconds, go down below, hit the like button, hit subscribe. It would mean the absolute world to me, to our team behind the scenes who put in an immense amount of effort to make these episodes what they are, and also to our guests who take a chunk out of their day to come on here, talk with me, and share their knowledge, stories, experience, and game with you guys in an effort to make you and your businesses more successful as well. Also, for those of you guys that are home service business owners and you're struggling with the marketing and lead generation department in your business and you feel like that's something that's holding you back from growing to the levels that you want to, that is the problem that we solve at TradeOps Consulting. So we have a full suite of marketing services, everything from A to Z, whether it be website design, SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, you name it, we do it. We also build automations and systems that help you guys make the most out of your marketing as well. At the moment, about 80% of our business comes from word of mouth referrals. That is business owners and contractors just like you telling their friends and other business owners about the great experience that they had with us. And so that is the reputation that we have spent 6 years building here doing marketing for the trades. If you guys need help with stuff like that, click the first link in the description below. Book a call in with me. We'll take a look at your business, peek under the hood, see what's going on. If there's anything that we can do to help you guys fix it, we can lay out a path for what that would look like, taking our systems and putting them into your business. So if that's something you're interested in, book a call with the first link in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Let's get to it. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the TradeOps Radio podcast. Today, I'm joined by our guest, AJ. AJ, go ahead, introduce yourself, get people familiar with who you are, what you do, and kind of your story of how we got to where we're at now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thanks for having me here today. I represent Villquin Air Services here in the San Francisco Bay Area. We mainly focus on the electrification side of residential retrofits or conversions, going from gas to electric. We are a family-owned and family-operated company, definitely in a growing stage and taking advantage of the heat pump wave that we have going on here in the Bay Area. We've been in full operation since 2020. So midst of the whole COVID, things were taking off there, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, the company is shared ownership, between two brothers, which I'm family with. So I kind of do the operational side of things and all the bureaucratic stuff, all the paperwork, permits, stuff like that. Everything else but the hands-on installation, if you will. Yes, sir.
Right on. I know that myself included, 2020 was a year where a lot of people decided to kind of take a leap and start businesses and stuff like that. If you kind of rewind to that sort of inception of the business, what were some of the things that were kind of going on in your life, or like what careers did you have previously to be like, hey, I want to do HVAC?
Yeah. So I got brought into the HVAC industry, by my family, my father and my uncle, who are both, well experienced in this industry. They've done it, since they were young. And just a quick, I guess, taking it back a little bit further, heat pump technology is very well known everywhere else in the world, new technology here in the States. So they were well aware of the install process and the technology as it was coming into this new market, which was a big plus to kind of have a nice foot in the door with all of this stuff. But yeah, my background is in business administration. That's kind of my degree, my BS that I got from university. And I was dabbling with a few other career choices. I had, ideas of doing this, doing that, but this is a really good industry, up and coming, and it's kind of in the midst of a big conversion, a big shift, which I found pretty attractive. So one of the, I guess, motivators for me to come to the family business and join the HVAC industry is deciding where I want to put my time into. Do I want to, go corporate, fulfill somebody else's dream, the classic whole thing, or, focus on the family and kind of help it grow and kind of keep the time and the economics, in house kind of thing is what helped me make the push.
For sure. When you say like there's a big shift happening in the HVAC industry, like what specifically are you referring to, or like what kind of things are on your radar as far as stuff that's changing or evolving that maybe people haven't quite caught up to yet?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So there's right now, and I can speak about, the San Francisco Bay Area, or I guess the NorCal region.
Sure.
Primarily, that's where we're based out of, but I know it's statewide and kind of going across, other areas of the country soon enough. But there's just a lot of focus on getting rid of gas appliances in homes and just going all electric. So that encapsulates the HVAC, people's water heating source, people's cooking source, drying, clothing drying, a lot of EV charging going on at the moment. And with all these new electrical appliances being put in the home comes, electrical capacities being at the max and needing upgrades. So then you have the whole PG&E side of things working into the retrofits or the conversions. But mainly it's the shift to heat pump technology overall as the bread and butter. Most people here in the Bay, it's not extreme weather, so they really only need furnaces. And that's kind of what we see mainly. It's, getting rid of the gas furnace, go in and put in the new HVAC. And then a lot of people like to take advantage of the opportunity. We're already there. Might as well just get rid of the water heater and get kind of the double whammy combination with that technology is kind of what we see now. But hand in hand, I guess with the Bay Area being a very progressive area, there's a lot of incentives, a lot of kind of rebates, and a lot of money available to homeowners to do the shift without having to pay the full upfront cost, right? Which has been a big blessing to not only the homeowners but also contractors alike, who you need some sort of traction and also homeowner education to let the homeowners know, this is what you're getting, this is what you're paying, this is why you should do it. And a lot of government agencies do a good job educating these homeowners to justify the investment, right? Because it's not a cheap thing that you do in the homes. It's, a couple $1,000s, tens of thousands at times. But yeah, that's the big shift going on at the moment.
When you say there's like government benefits or like maybe tax incentives or like other things, what specifically, if you can like just share a little more info on that? And then also, is that something that you guys lean into on like the marketing side where it's like, hey, you can get XYZ, government funding or tax breaks or whatever. So it's like, has that helped a lot as far as giving you guys an angle where you can go out and advertise and market to customers that like, hey, you can get help with this financially from XYZ agency?
Yeah, man. Honestly, that's been a big driving factor to kind of getting it introduced, getting it, into the homes, and at least sparking up a conversation with the clients. The marketing aspect of it is a good point you hit, just because not only can you market the credits available, this rebates available, but what I found the most kind of helpful is being on these directories for certain incentive programs or government agencies and etc. People are looking for something, look you up, you pop up as a trusted contractor through the agency or whoever it might be, and it's an easier sell, or kind of it sells itself kind of thing. They're calling you, um, so it's kind of hot leads or hot individuals coming in ready to learn, and not kind of cold calling or door to door kind of thing where you're introducing this to people, which it's a big help. It's a big help because with any big change, there's a lot of questions, a lot of pushback, and people in older generations want to stick to what has been working for years. So it's been really helpful, man. I want to say since 2020 up until like 2025, I guess this past year, that 60% of clients coming in inquiring about heat pumps came through one of those programs. Um, but again, it's also important to take notes of the political state of the country or the state, even, or the regional aspect, right? For example, the tax credit that was available, IRA 25C tax credit, got removed. New administration comes in, doesn't like these renewable energy alternatives, takes the money away, and a new administration is going to come in, they might change it, or it might increase, it might reduce. So it can get definitely political at a federal level, but the beauty of being in the Bay Area is there's a lot of fighting back against big petrol companies and lobbying for legislature that's starting in 2027 up until 2030. Laws are being passed that you can't install gas appliances any further, that be a water heater or stove or etc. So the mandates have been helping as well, with the local governments and such. So incentives, politics, governments, and above all is the incentives being limited, right? So there's only a budget allocated, and most of 95% of the time they get drenched up before it's projected time frame that it's supposed to last for. So that's a good sign. People are using it and taking advantage of it.
Absolutely. What's kind of the process of getting into some of those directories so that you can be a recommended contractor by these different government agencies? What is the kind
Hmm.
of first steps to get involved with that, and how'd you end up getting on that list of, verified contractors?
Right. Yeah. So that's a good question. Just because it depends agency or program to program, but they definitely do some kind of research before they post kind of any contractor on those lists. You have to go through certain trainings sometimes in person, either in person, either webinars, having certain qualifications, requirements. Um, some programs for like rebates, they require certain insurances to be at a certain threshold, to kind of cover for certain. So it's you have to put in more money to kind of increase your insurance coverage, etc. But then you get it back in turn, with the I wouldn't say free marketing, but with those directory kind of visibility to all those clients. So um, so I would say those two things mainly, trainings, having a good reputable kind of I wouldn't say brand image, but kind of brand reputation with your reviews. Um, and if you nail those, you can very much get on those. Also, I mean, after you kind of get in there, it's not just about getting into the program or getting into these directories, but maintaining such satisfaction with the clients. Because sometimes these programs will reach out and they'll do like random assessment, like, all right, let me see if you actually followed through. Let me see the record of the close off on the inspection, or they'll reach out to the client and stuff like that. So you just have to be ready. It's not about just picking it up, it's about finishing it and having the long term care for the clients as well.
Yeah. So making sure that the quality is there, and then also, like most things, when you're dealing with a government body, you kind of need to be a little more legit as far as certain structures and some of the business stuff goes, just having your ducks in a row so that, on paper, everything looks good and, you can qualify and,
Yeah,
have all the right things and stuff in place so that they, again, feel confident to refer you all this work. Obviously, they're not just going to, send
yeah,
people your way if you're going to do a bad job or if you're like less than reputable. So
yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
absolutely.
It's kind of like a specific question. Maybe you have the answer to it, but have you noticed if there's any particular like year or range of years where it's like houses that are this old or older are typically the ones that have these older gas units and are like a great fit for our services? Like
Mhm.
houses built before X date are like mostly have those systems still.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I want to say anything pre 2000s is very much, what we're seeing in terms of the people right now doing these retrofits, people who are a little bit kind of more matured in their home ownership journey, kind of they're in their, want to say 50s, 60s. That's the sweet spot, because when they're a little bit younger, then they're still kind of saving up a little bit more to, they just bought the home or they're kind of just waiting because the system currently works. They want it to break down. And in hand, when they're older than that, and it's interesting because this is coming from clients conversation. It's like, I'm not gonna be here much longer. I'm not gonna replace anything. Just gonna keep it until the wheels fall off, kind of thing. And they don't want to get rid of gas. That's just kind of their mentality. Can't teach an old dog a new trick, kind of saying. But also true in a sense. They either sell a home and then the next person does it. Going back to like new homeowners, I want to say when they're brand new, that's when it is a good opportunity because there's capital flowing there and they can kind of just encapsulate the whole thing in there. But there is definitely a sweet spot for certain homeowners who are kind of ready, know what they're doing, and they are going to enjoy it for the next 15, 20 plus years it's supposed to last.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know you said that around 60% of the customers for that particular service at least come from, the referrals of those other agencies. What about the other 40 or 50%?
Yeah, so the other could be organic traffic, and also when we were doing some marketing, that's the other portion I would say. You know, and again, mouth, word to, how you say
Mouth?
word to mouth. There we go, word to mouth kind of clients is always the best because they, especially when it's a neighbor, they've gone over to the house, they've seen the quality of work, they like it. The friend, you know, approves of such company, and it's those are my favorite just because there's already a relationship kind of built in before you kind of go in there. But yeah, that's kind of like the ratios, kind of how that plays out a little bit.
Sure. When you say organic, do you mean like website, social media, stuff like that? What specific kind of
Hmm.
channels do you guys notice you get a decent amount of lead
Yeah,
flow?
when it's organic, it's like that's like non-paid, no advertising. They just found us, through the website or like reviews and stuff like that. The other would be, paid advertising. And what I've found, I've dabbled with a variety of styles of marketing. The one I found to be the most effective is Google local service ads. PPC or pay per click is it's just throwing your money where everybody else is throwing their money at. So the LSA is a little bit more expensive lead, but it's qualified and it's kind of pre-screened. And if it comes back to be a scam or a bot or something, LSA does a good job of refunding you that lead so you can use it for something real. So it's costs more, but it's a higher quality client. So you kind of just do a couple things here and there. You learn what works, what doesn't, And it just depends the budget of the company as well, for their marketing for each quarter or what that might be.
Sure, 100%. Yeah, LSA is definitely a good sort of get your feet wet with paid ads because, like you said, you're only paying for leads, like people that have called.
Yeah,
Whereas with PPC, or even sometimes depending on what your structure is for like meta ads, a lot of times you're paying for clicks or impressions.
yeah,
And for people that don't have like sales experience or aren't fully dialed in and know their numbers when it comes to their marketing expenses, their cost per lead, their close rate, and all the things that are important to know if you're running an actually profitable campaign. It's a little simpler when you can turn on LSA and only get billed when you get a phone call, and it's much easier to keep track of those numbers and if they're making sense, from a marketing dollars perspective. So
100%, 100%. And just in terms of like Google, or I know that people do like Yelp sometimes, or Angie's List. I mean, this is just for anybody who might listen to this or just getting started. I would stray away from those services just because it's very much, everybody's on there, and it's not. I wasted a lot of, we've wasted a lot of money and time with the Yelp and Angie's, and those are definitely not the way to go. And if your marketing agency is putting your dollars into those, I would tell them to stop doing that. That's what I told our previous agency to, stop that completely. Put all the money in LSA, and and just like you said, you get billed when the phone rings. You put it perfectly there. Yeah, man.
yeah, I'll clarify a little bit for anyone that's watching that maybe doesn't know exactly how some of the services you mentioned work. So like Yelp or Angie's, and there's other ones too that are basically their lead aggregators. So what Angie's and Yelp will do, I mean, obviously Yelp gets a little bit of organic traffic because a lot of times their listings for services will show up in Google search results. If you search like HVAC contractor near me, Yelp will have an article that's like top 5 best HVAC companies in, Los Angeles or whatever. And people will click that, find your profile, call you, or Yelp will run an ad on that particular slot. Or basically, if they have their, top 5 contractors, they'll sell you on, hey, do you want to be number 1 on our list of 5, or do you want to be number 5? Right. So that's kind of how that works. So with Yelp, they'll run ads or charge for the rank in the listing. And then Angie's, like, and Angie's is the most well-known brand or name, but there's a lot of other companies that do this as well. Like Angie's runs organic SEO, meta ads, and Google ads. So they're getting their leads from all the same channels that you could run yourself, or if you have an agency or someone like that that can help with those things. And essentially what they do is they'll capture the leads via paid or organic channels, but they'll sell that lead to multiple contractors. So that lead might have cost them $100 on Google PPC. And if you were to run Google ads, you would also have to pay about $100 for the same lead. But how they make their money is they'll sell that lead for $50, but to 3 people, right? Yeah. So now they've covered their cost of acquisition for that customer, and they've kind of triple dipped, so to speak, and sent that out to multiple people. So I mean, I ran a landscaping business. We used Angie's to get started when we had literally nothing.
Yeah.
And it actually, like, bro, it worked. It got our business off the ground. So it's like, if you're just getting started, it's a catch-22 because it's like you have nothing else going on for you. And it's an easy way to just pay a little bit of money. And at least you'll get some at-bats. But I was also a dog on the sales side. Like, I would call leads instantly and I would follow up 5 or 6 times basically until they told me to, like, fuck off, right?
Yeah.
So most guys are not willing to do that. And they're like, oh yeah, the Angie's leads are junk or whatever. And it's like, most of them are. But every once in a while, there's like a diamond in the rough where,
Yeah.
it'll pay for itself at least. And I'm not advocating for Angie's, by the way. Like, I have a business where I provide marketing services for contractors, and most of them always are like, yeah, dude, Angie sucks. But I will say, like, having used it, for a very specific type of person in a very specific situation, it makes sense. But 99% of the time, you're going to want to take your marketing dollars and invest them into your own assets as quickly as possible. And by that, I mean, instead of paying Angie's for leads, take those dollars and invest in SEO for your website, Google Business Profile, run your LSAs, maybe do some meta or PPC, stuff like that. So as quickly as possible, you want to get your own lead acquisition channels set up so you don't have to pay them. And then also you're not like dealing with, you're calling a homeowner that's been called 6 times in the past 30 minutes because their name just got sent out to all the local guys. So yeah, it's, you got to know what you're doing. It's hard to advocate for them, but it's not like the worst thing ever. But for most people, it's like you want to get out of that boat as quick as possible. So
You brought a good
makes,
memory when you said when you just started out, that's kind of what you used, and I can share that sentiment where when I came into the company, that's what was being used, Angie's List, because they were just getting started and kind of getting their feet wet, kind of thing. And I agree, it's a great starter for sure. It works if you know how to capitalize on it. If you're a good, closer and a good follow up, salesperson. And if you have a good sales team, I feel like if you have a good sales team that can manage the load, then it's worth it because it does pay for itself. You get a few diamonds in the rough, but you do have maybe you agree there where you do kind of have to have maybe a bigger not budgeting, marketing budget for it to be worth it. Because if you're kind of just starting and then just eating up all your profit when it's still slim, then that could be a little bit dangerous as well.
yeah,
It just
yeah.
depends, case by case. Yeah.
It's tough when you're getting started and you're on that kind of shoestring budget, and it's like you don't want to be in a position, whether it's with Angie's or a marketing agency or anything like that. Like what you don't want to be the case is I'm spending my last couple dollars. I'm just sending it on a hope and a prayer that the first lead that I get from this closes and I make my money back. Like that is not the situation that you want to be in at all. So yeah, definitely like it can eat up the budget relatively quickly. But again, I think that a lot of that too is and this is a conversation I've had plenty of times with customers, clients, and just, other guys on the podcast, whatever. And it's the biggest thing with marketing is you have to know your numbers and you have to make sure that your pricing is correct. And the biggest trap that I see that keeps a lot of guys stuck in that chuck in a truck, like one man band sort of operation where it's like they're the owner, the operator, they're doing sales, marketing, and the fulfillment. Like they are like solo owner operator, right? And they price their jobs to get work and stay busy. And because they are the only person on the payroll, whatever profit is left after the job, it feels like they're making money. However, as soon as you add overhead expenses or marketing costs or labor costs for someone else to go do the work instead of you, now your pricing needs a total adjustment.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys will come to us when, they've got a couple guys, maybe 2, 3 vans, whatever. And they're like, they've got a pretty good reputation. So the word of mouth feeds their business. And it's like, they've got their guys going and it's great. But what they haven't factored in is the $100 to $500 that they might be paying now additionally to go buy customers, when they're doing their marketing. And if you don't factor that pricing in, that's another cost that is part
Yeah.
of your overhead that you're not accounting for. So if you don't have it built into your pricing, it is coming out of your bottom line at the end of the day. So
And in the
something to,
HVAC, I mean, it's a big, or just any trade, I feel it's overhead heavy. Like it
yeah,
might, projects might be tens of thousands or sometimes hundreds of thousands, but it's not all as pretty as it sounds or as it looks for sure. The EBITDA, after everything, it's low. Um, but volume makes up for a good amount, I guess. But
yeah,
or you take into account, workers' comp, more employees, et cetera, the audits after everything, and you don't do it right, and then you get it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
yeah. I mean, you're in California too. I would hate to see what your tax bill looks like at the end of
Just
the year.
policy, man. Insurance, just insurance, just those. They know they're doing something. I mean, it's I, I don't know. Something's gonna change maybe, but it's high operational cost, man. I would love to be operating out of like Arizona or like Nevada for sure. Um, a lot more profit for sure.
Yeah. Are there other states that offer some of those tax credits and stuff like that that you were talking about earlier?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. Just because everything that I kind of that we're involved with is like local or state approved. Through California. I don't know much about other states, and I think that's the beauty of, I guess, paying such high premiums on everything else is you kind of have more resources, if you will, to kind of put it out there. Um, some other states, the requirements are very, little to none to kind of get an install going. Here, just talk about, permit process in itself. Put insurance aside, put overhead costs aside, getting the actual thing on the ground and getting it through those offices can sometimes be a big headache as well. And I know that's a big thing in California. There's a big legislature, going around where they're trying to streamline the process and just kind of have one standardized way to apply for heat pump technology specifically or any electrification conversions. It's something they're working on. It's kind of working a little bit. They're getting more on track with it, and that's what I'm hoping. When the day comes where it's just standardized and it's express instant permits for all these things, that's when this thing's gonna fly off the shelf for sure.
Would
Um,
you say that that's probably the biggest hurdle or bottleneck is dealing with the bureaucracy of all the other offices or paperwork that needs to get filed and pushed through in order for you guys to actually like just get in and do your job basically?
yeah, I would say yes. Well, one, it's two hand or twofold. That being one of them. The other one being the electrical capacities or pre-existing capacity of the panels in the homes or even commercial properties if people come around those scenarios. um but it's time consuming because this city asks for this and then this city asks for this, and then you have to kind of customize your approach on the application 20 plus different ways or more. If you're working throughout more cities, um, it gets more tough when you go into commercial. The requirements are even heightened to the residential ones. Uh, the cost of the application varies, so it's hard to gauge your. It's not hard, you kind of learn and you kind of just apply as you go. But then if you just know this is the price for this permit installation throughout everything, you just kind of start doing more template style, things and automize your operation. But when it's this and then this and then it's everywhere. You just have to do more calculations, more time, and takes away from doing more. You know what I mean? Like the goal is to do more of these, um, and not spend so much time, on the very specifics that it's standard. It's standard. Remove the gas, cap the gas lines, put in the electric, make sure the panel's good, have a clean installation, and you're good to go. You know what I mean? Um, but it becomes more difficult when you start doing like multi-trade installations. So when you're doing mechanical, plumbing, electrical all in one, then the review is a lot more thorough and a lot more extensive. Um, so in a nutshell, on this point, sometimes I can get a permit in 30 minutes. Sometimes it takes 3 4 months to get a permit. So it's wild and it varies, from jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
Gotcha. Is that one of those things where it's like you kind of figure out, okay, for this service in this area, this is kind of what the paperwork process looks like, and then once you go through it once and kind of figure it out, you can, like you said, you can templatize it a little bit more and kind of know how to push things through faster? Or do you struggle where it's like it's a little different every time, and whether Cindy or Becky was in the office that day like makes a difference on, well, this paper got lost or this didn't get signed off properly. So like you have to start over. Like just, I would imagine there's a lot of shuffling and just, you know, time, like you said, time and money gets sucked up in just the paperwork.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've developed my own little kind of cheat sheet or kind of guide as to, I have it, city specific, county specific, and just because, when it's unincorporated, areas, it's a lot easier. Um, and, having timelines there as well, because then and that's the other thing, right? When you have a more solid timeline or when it's going to get approved or etc., you can line up your jobs a little bit better. But if let's say there's 10 plus projects in permit limbo, and you don't know when it's going to come, you're kind of left in the dark a little bit, because then we run into scenarios where they're all in permit process, and now we're just sitting with our hand out, and then all of a sudden, five, six get approved, same day, or back to back to back, and it's like, okay, now it's this whole volume, and now you gotta get them on, so it just makes it hard to project a little bit when those timelines are all over the place, for sure.
Yeah, I would can definitely see how scheduling wise that becomes a bit of a nightmare, and also just like the amount of extra kind of communication that you have to do with customers, where it's like, hey, we're still waiting on, this piece of paper to get approved. And it's like just kind of having to, placate to them a little bit more, and like, hey, we've done everything we can. The ball is not in our court right now. We're just like, that's, sometimes a little tricky. And then once it goes through, it's like, can we be there tomorrow to do it? And it's go, go, go. So yeah, I can imagine how that gets.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. It gets approved, but then you're working on current stuff. So now they're 2 weeks out after the approval. It's crazy. It's crazy. And then and then you got to close out the inspection. Sometimes you got to do, ductwork testing, and that's another 2 weeks. So these things can take months, sometimes years. There's projects that we have, going on for a couple years. That's just the nature of the trade, though. Sometimes. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you said that you had some business administrative training and a degree in all of that stuff. That is something that most home service business owners don't have, and it's probably the biggest, piece that they're lacking. A lot of them, it's probably more than 80%, but just off of the conversations that I've had, it seems like at least 80% of them are, I was a technician working for someone else and then started the business because I figured, hey, this isn't rocket science. I can go make a little more money, and I have the skills and the qualifications to do it. Why not? So they go from technician to business owner, and then a lot of the things that you're probably educated on become the bottlenecks or the extra skills and the extra hats that they have to wear that severely impact their ability to grow that business beyond just being a high paying job for them, basically. So yeah. What would you say are some of the most important skills that you have and that you've learned, that if you could tell someone who doesn't have those things, maybe in like the order of importance of how they affect your business, or, how easy or hard it makes things to run your business, knowing what would be like, hey, technician turned business owner, learn these couple skills because it's going to save you.
I see. Yeah, man. I mean, you said it perfectly. The way I even came to work here with Villquin Air Service, it's the same scenario you mentioned. The current owners, technicians, a lot of field experience. Masters in their field, right? They do what they do, and they do it right. They try to do their business, and they go from, how you mentioned, field, technician to, wanting to operate the company, which it can be a lot. It can definitely be a lot, to not only implement, but then develop, and then maintain, and then expand, which it's scaling. I found is one of the things I need definitely more education on, because there's a point where you only know so much, and then you hit your threshold of knowledge, right? And that's why continued education is always good. Training through distributors is always good for sure. Just keep expanding, because this thing can go. You can be a sub $1 million contracting company or multi-million, it doesn't stop, right? But from all the skills and something that I attacked primarily when I came in, aside from marketing, aside from, brand image, aside from anything else, yes, customer service has to be top notch because sometimes, the technician turned owner, they're the ones taking the phone calls sometimes at the very beginning. They're not the most customer friendly facing, you know what I mean? They're more to the point, like this is what you got to do, and disregard kind of the sentiment of the client. You have to listen to them, and you figure that out. But above all is figuring out how to work your pipeline to the most efficient way possible so you're not missing out on the follow-ups. That's the biggest thing, because sometimes when I was trying to clean things up, there were estimates sent a while ago, never got in contact with, and you're spending time on those estimates. At least the people creating the proposals, spending time, work all day, nighttime is for estimates, and they're working around the clock, right? And they just don't follow up, and it's missed money. And if you figure out a good way to track every single client, try to memorize their first name at least, so when they call, I try to register all my clients, first name, last name, as soon as I have some sort of report. So when I pick up, hey, Mr. Wilson or Mr. Garcia, etc., it's already built in. So knowing your client and knowing the pipeline goes a long way, because then you master your pipeline, marketing is going to follow, your brand image is going to follow, because you're getting out there. You're just kind of getting, the feet on the ground. I guess it goes hand in hand with a good sales kind of practice, but above that, it's just tracking it, dates, specifics, all these details has taken us, further than where we started, I would say.
Yeah, speaking from experience, I wish I knew the exact number, and maybe I should. The amount of deals that were closed after like the third phone call.
Yeah.
Did a proposal, did a sales call, whatever, never heard back. Follow up 1, follow up 2, follow up 3, and like then it hits. Like, and it's, people have lives, dude. People are busy. There's stuff going on all the time. So, whether they were uninterested or not, like you don't know until you keep asking them. And the goal isn't to like close, sometimes just to get an answer. Like, even if you just tell me no, so I know that I can take my time and go, work some of the other leads in the pipeline, like that's helpful too. But yeah, the amount of business that I've probably closed that's second or third phone call follow up is like, if you left that on the table, the numbers of the business would look totally different. So I think that's a really valid point, and it's one of the things where, like, again, the technician turned owner, like maybe they don't even know what a pipeline is. When we, like, if we said that and you're watching this and you don't know what we're talking about, like you should learn. You should learn quick, because it's that's a huge piece of it. And I mean, even leads that are super cold, you would be surprised. Sometimes when we're working with a new client, we'll do what we call a database reactivation. So it's like they have a couple hundred numbers or thousands sometimes in their CRM or whatever that have just been sitting there. And maybe they're customers, or maybe they were just people that called them one time and we don't know why. But their name and their phone number and their email is in the CRM. They've contacted this business at some point. And, we'll blast out a text or an email to this list. And, even if like 5% of people reply and those turn into booked jobs, like if the average ticket is a couple grand, like, dude, that's an extra 30, 50K in revenue for the year just by sending out an email. So it's like little things like that. Like you said, working the pipeline is huge, dude. And it's a really easy thing to do that, yes, it requires some time, and maybe you need to learn some technical skills like navigating through a CRM or whatever. But other than that, like, you've already paid for those leads. Like that's revenue that's just sitting in the computer screen, and it's your job to figure out how to pull it out and put it in the bank.
It's a lead.
Yeah.
It's a lead, man. I mean, you said it perfectly. To be honest, you couldn't have said it better. And also, I feel like some people give up on the. This is the way I go about my pipeline is everything that's been completed, anything that's under contract, hot leads, warm leads, unclosed deals, meaning they went with someone else or they just didn't want it any further, but they told me no. And then there's the unresponsive list, right? There's the hot, warm, unresponsive. That's a no go. So I kind of, segment it in different ways because you lost a lead 3 years ago. Fine. Call them again now. Maybe they never got a maintenance agreement. Or, that's something I'm still trying to develop and attack all of those, but I kind of have it kind of in the works where like these were no good 2 3 years ago, but now it's system doesn't get maintained the first 3 4 years, you're gonna run into some trouble. Also, a lot of clients, people watching this don't get defeated if someone else goes with a different contractor. Sometimes I've gotten calls before where they go based off price, they save a couple thousand, they call me back to fix the error that they made by going with a subpar you know workmanship, and then they save 2,000. Now they got to spend 3 or 4,000 to fix it. So then it's a learning lesson for them, and then you kind of come back and you save the day a little bit, and it builds good trust. So that's why I never, even if it's a red on my pipeline, it's still a client, it's still there, it's still potential for something. And I would say the same thing as you call them until they tell you to no or fuck off, or they tell you take me off your list, because that's the law. That's also just the law. You can call them, email them, text them. And a good rule of thumb, and just because my previous training before I came to do this was sales, especially in the mortgage space. And a good rule of thumb that I learned while doing that is always double tap that first phone call. Some people like to do it, some people don't. Some people think it's annoying, but sometimes people are on do not disturb. The phone call doesn't even register first time. You do a second time, it's gonna go through. And then if people see a random number call twice, they're gonna most likely pick up or at least text you back from a follow-up text. So they don't pick up twice, so I'm gonna send them a text message, send them an email. It's time consuming, but it's how you mentioned. It's not hard. It's just time consuming, and you have to have a process. And what was the term you used? Templatized or
Sure. You get like a templatized, or you get like
yeah,
a workflow going. You
yeah,
get a system, something.
yeah. And it's just copy and paste. At that point, once you spend the hours, you copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, and it's just a numbers game in this industry for sure. 100%.
Is there any other sales tips or advice? Some things that you've noticed that may, or like, even if you've got like a one liner or something that you say on the phone where it's like, I've used this to push a couple deals over the line that maybe were, you know,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Let me start with one where I recently noticed I was doing it incorrectly. I love texting my clients because we live in a modernized world. People are on their phones. If you're texting a client more than 5 times with no response, trust me, they've seen the text because people are on the phone all day. They're gonna see it faster than an email. But I used to start with an intro like via text. Start with an intro. Hey, Miss X, this is AJ with da da da. We sent you this proposal. That's fine. You have your template text. But what I've seen that's works best via text is kind of the same way you go via email, where you have a subject and then you have the body of the email. But then if you put your subject line at the very top of that text message, and then you go about your message on the text, that's what they're gonna read. They're gonna read like a headline on their text, which is more attractive than saying, hey Joe, and then who's this? It could be a marketer, it could be someone telling them something. But if it's like a headline, like HVAC, name of your company, an emoji, people love seeing emojis on text. They see that, it's gonna be like, okay, this is different. This looks attractive, or something. You know what I mean? Like if for example, our business, it's half sun, half snowflake as the logo. That's kind of what I put as emojis, like the two little emojis. It already has the brand and the company kind of image, colors kind of going. So I've seen a higher return response rate with kind of like a headline at the very top of the text, and then the rest kind of follows. And visually, I tried it on my phone. I tried it, and it looks different.
Yeah, that's a good one, dude. I might have to steal that. That's good. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah,
Because you're right, and the amount of marketing messages that I receive, and also the ones that I've sent, where it's like, "Hey, name blah 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 blah," but it's like in their message history, how it shows up, it's like, "Hey, Bang, hey,
exactly.
Bang, hey, Bang." They're all the same. So, dude, that's huge. That's a good one, dude. I love
For
that.
example, like if you're in HVAC or any trade and you use a specific brand, then, for example, we're diamond dealer or diamond contractors with Mitsubishi. They had red, it's three red diamonds, right? So I just put a little red diamond emoji on there because they came in as a Mitsubishi, wanting a Mitsubishi system. So sometimes when they do an inquiry, they already know which brand they want. So if you have some other info you can use, and then they get a headline, Mitsubishi heat pump, free estimate, and it's not like, hey Joe, like, are you interested in hearing about this? Is this? And it's red, and it's like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted. It's free, and they're reaching out to me directly with a different approach, and it's modern, and it's fun, and it's emoji, and it's personable. It's been working good, man.
Yeah. I love the emoji thing too. Like you said, just humanizing it a little
Yeah,
bit where it's like, oh, they put a little extra effort into this. It doesn't feel like robotic or super
yeah.
automated, even though it could be. But
Don't overdo it. Don't overdo
it's a
it.
touch. Yeah. A
Yeah,
touch
man.
different, a little more effort than the other 10,
Yeah.
text messages that are buried in there,
What I've
messages.
what I've seen when I was kind of reading on how to do that better, it's kind of using general or kind of universal emojis. You never want to get specific with them on client communications. Like a thumbs up or the blessing hands, or you never want to get specific. And there's people know, there's emojis that are specific. Avoid those and just the general basic ones for sure.
Gotcha. Any other sales tips? Maybe something where it's like speaking or on the phone or closing.
Yeah, I mean, there's sales, man. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with sales for sure, but I it just depends how hungry the person is taking charge of the leads and the clients. I tell my clients, 9, 10 11 p.m. shoot me a text. If I'm up, I'll respond to your inquiry. And to me, aside from a reputable company, aside from the price, aside from most things, it's not the end all be all, but your availability in terms of communication is the biggest driving factor from one client. Hey, you know what? I'm going to work with this person because they respond at the times that I'm available, because everybody's working. Everybody has 9 to 5s, you know, and if they only have a sliver of time, 8, 9 p.m. after dinner with their family, and you're responding, you're going to gain some business for sure. So I always make myself available. I always give my direct line, my work direct line, to clients who are more serious, wanting to move forward, of course. And there's like some conversations there. That's been a big one. Let's see. I had one more that came up that was pretty good. It's gonna come back to me. Um, but just standing up. I mean, this might be silly. This is just classic, sales training. If you're feeling low energy, just stand up and then pace around while you're talking on the phone with the client. They notice the energy shift for sure. Above all, it's also that just being excited to attend to this individual who's is planning to give you a couple $1,000, and giving them all the attention and hearing kind of their ideas a little bit goes a long way, because you can't just shove these down people's throats as much as you want, or even if you lowball your own price, you never want to be the cheap company. You never want to be the expensive company. You want to be competitive always. You want to be, I want to say, in the middle, but slightly above the middle price point. Just because then at that point you have a little more leverage as to why it's priced at that point, and then the rest is history from there. Um, but yeah, the sales is a lot. I can go into a lot of points with the sales approach. Time wise, though, I guess the last one I will say is, if you want to be on the phone ringing and kind of doing the warm, hot leads or even cold leads anywhere from 4 to 7 p.m., or if you want to do it until 8 p.m., if you got it in you, like, those are the best times to do closing calls. Like, let's get a contract in. Let's do that. I've noticed somehow when I was reading my other metrics through my marketing agency, Monday, Tuesday in the morning seems to be a good time that people are busy calling on the phone, making appointments for stuff. Or in that evening, it's your best bet. Don't call someone during their lunch, lunch hour. They're not gonna. It's a waste of time. Just do something else. Wait for the time, and then yeah, man. Statistically speaking, it works the best.
Yeah, totally. I can see how that, like, you got to catch people where they're available. And, that all kind of feeds back into what you were saying before, where it's like, make yourself available. The more open your calendar is, the more time you're going to find where other people, your customers, are also free and available to pick up the phone. Like you said, everyone's got jobs, family, life, whatever. So if you're calling them between the hours of 9 to 5, like, dude, they're at work, or they're, dropping their kids off at school. No, they're not going to answer the phone and like have their credit card and be ready to,
Yeah.
sign a contract and do whatever. So you got to kind of meet them where they're at, even if that means that you kind of have to operate outside of normal hours. And a question that I've been asked a lot by guys that are trying to figure out kind of what you were saying about their pricing, where it's like, okay, I want to be maybe not the most expensive guy, but definitely not the cheapest. And I want to be like, premium prices, but like still competitive. Exactly what you said. And it's like, well, we're using the same products and the same equipment, and there's not a lot of a technical difference. Yes, maybe there's like years of experience or some tricks of the trade that you develop after being in business for a long period of time, like your reputation, your brand, all of those things. But basically, most guys don't understand where their leverage is with their pricing, and it has nothing to do with the part that you're maintaining or the tools that you're using or the unit that you're installing. And it has everything to do with the experience that the customer has when they're working with you. Like,
100%.
that is the premium part. That is what you are selling. That is the justification for your slightly higher prices. Obviously there's the cheaper, like you said, the subpar guy that's going to come
Yeah.
in and mess a bunch of things up. So like, yes, the workmanship is a part of it, but generally, if you want to charge those premium prices, much more of it has to do with the experience that the customer has working with your business, not you actually performing the service. And so the little things like, he was available at 7 or 8 p.m. when I got home from work after picking up my 6 kids from soccer practice or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, those little things from like the first experience that they have with you all the way up till, the closing, their entire journey with you from first touch point to paying you and, sending you on your way is the experience they have. And that is what you're selling. So for anyone that's ever been confused, like, oh, well, how do I like negotiate without just like lowering my prices? It's like, well, you're not just selling the HVAC unit, you're selling the journey that the customer is going to go on with you, getting that thing installed in their property or house, whatever.
Your
So,
time, for sure. You're selling time a lot of the times too.
mm, Sure.
People don't have time. Time is money. Um, and if you if you hit them where they're at in their time journey, you're gonna win for sure. And I think what you were saying, I want to just add one more point where you can be a good good workmanship or cheap price, high price, something that and this is I guess for people watching the podcast and are kind of in the start earlier phases of the business development is something that has helped us gain business is also yes great presentation great and first impression goes it's the biggest factor either on the phone or in person. The first impression is going to last you until that closing of the contract for sure. um, but it's also when you go on site when you have bigger companies like almost corporate level HVAC or plumbing or electrical, they're going to send a comfort advisor to the home to sell them a system that's cookie cutter, or they're going to try to go sell them a membership to their maintenance, which works. It's a model that obviously it's proven it works, and you can get a lot of clients who are not too knowledgeable and they haven't done all their homework in that manner. But something that we get a lot of feedback from, especially my senior technicians, they get a lot of feedback from is, these guys came in. Not only do you have to be professional, clean, it is a trade, but you have to be clean in terms of going into people's homes. They have kids, they have elderly people. Some people are shoes off, shoes on in the house, etc. So you have to come prepared with all the right protocols. But also if you still have it in you where you actually go in there and measure, you're in there crawling in the crawl space, you're actually going up in the attic, taking pictures and being thorough with your process of proposal. Clients who know what they're doing and they're ready to invest and give you their check like to see these differences in approach for sure. They we've gotten some calls and like, yeah, this guy, there's no shot I'm gonna go with this other company. They didn't even measure a single thing. They just came in with a price book, a template, a little iPad, trying to sell me a cookie cutter install, right? Which is not what we do. And you know, each model works for each different company, but I would say that's gonna gain you a lot of business. Take out the tool, take out the measuring stick. Get down dirty and show the client things inside their house that they haven't seen in years because they're not in the crawl space. Like take a picture, take a video. Hey, I saw this and I noticed this, and they see and they kind of trust you a little more because then you're not only showing them but you're explaining as to why that is the root cause or the motive to change this to that. If you're really good at your craft, and it's something I'm blessed to work with, really good senior techs, sometimes a big company goes before us, lets them know that lets the homeowner know they have a trouble in their system, they got to replace this part, it's going to be $3,000-$4,000 replacement. You go in there with some knowledge and knowing that's total BS. You give them an honest kind of diagnostic report and a good solution that's a couple $100, because that's what it is. You don't want to be in the business of ripping people off. At least that's our method. We're honest to the point, what it costs. We make a living. You were comfortable in your home. Let's move on, and then hopefully you refer me over to your neighbor who might need something else. You know what I mean? So that method of kind of hiking up your prices where it's so expensive and you're kind of entrapping people and kind of hitting them blind, that's not the way to go. And they're gonna realize at one point or another, they're gonna talk to their uncle, they're gonna talk to their buddy, and they're gonna realize they got screwed, and they're gonna leave you a bad review on your business, and you're gonna start getting a lot of those reviews. Oh, they're scamming or they're upcharging and etc. You're gonna lose more business long term for sure.
Yeah, I can see how that's kind of a churn and burn strategy that's never gonna work long term and definitely not gonna help with your sort of general reputation. And they always say, like, good word travels slow, but negative news spreads like wildfire. So it's like it takes decades to build a positive reputation, and it takes like one or two bad clients to burn it all down. So
Yeah, man.
you gotta, you know,
Yeah.
play by the rules and keep things honest and fair for the customer too. Like make your money. It's a business. It's not a charity at the end of the day, like of course, but you know, within reason, just do the right thing at the end of the day is, and all the people that I've ever talked to that have run successful businesses, it's like, yeah, dude, we do the right thing. And yeah, we have our margins to protect and we got to run a business, but like we do the right thing, make the right choice at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree, man.
One thing that you said that caught my attention and made me think of something else is some of the sales stuff that I've learned is people buy with emotion and then justify with logic. So like you said, where you're going in and you do the diagnostic, you're in the crawl space, you have the full report of like all the things that are going wrong and how it's impacting the machine and why that's creating the problem that they're having in their home. So like that very much is the logical piece of it. Is there anything that you can think of that would help with like the emotional side of the sales process there, or any like?
Yes, and I'm gonna give you one that's because there's a lot of unethical ways to go about the emotional things. If you study a little psychology and a little read a couple sales books, there's a lot of ways to do it. But one of the ones to me that it's nowhere near that, but it's highly important is when the homeowner wants to go lower in price or lower in quality or lower in the efficiency or lower SEER, or they just want to save a little, $1,000, $2,000 in equipment cost. And they mention, and this is scenarios that have happened and that are real, but are justified in providing the value that we're providing, and the price, the sticker price, is if there's children in the home that have, say, asthma, or there's elderly in the home that are prone to bacterias or things in the air that are affecting their lungs, and etc. I don't use that as a selling point, like, oh, I know this and let me sell them this, but I offer what we know it's the right recommendation. They want to push back and say, I want to save a little money and jeopardize the install or the quality a little bit, and I tell them, like, you might save $1,000 here and there, but you're sacrificing the health of your family, and this is a place where you guys are gathering every day, and the air is filtering through every single day. So that's one of the things I always like to tell them, because that's something I would use in my own judgment. Like if someone is telling me, like, I got kids in the home, this is going to be better for the overall health of the family long term, I'm gonna spend the extra 1,000, 2,000 to be there and meet them at the appropriate recommendation. So that's always something I like to pay attention to, not only because you make a little more money, but also if you sell them something incorrect, and then the family starts seeing the side effects of an improper install or something cheaply done, then you're also in trouble. You know what I mean? So you have to hit them at where they're at with the circumstance in the home, because everybody has a different circumstance. People are old, people are young, people, there's a lot of asthma, a lot of the change, and going to a heat pump electrification movement here in the Bay Area is because there's so many asthma, you know, patients or people, with asthma, or a lot of people having cancer earlier in their lives due to the, emissions. And this is something I learned recently where I think this is true. I mean, it was a legit stat they put out, but it was saying home appliances produce more emissions than all the cars being driven around I guess, the Bay Area region. Which, if you really think about it, that's pretty tough, because then you're in the home most of your life. You're driving, to work or back to work most of your life, so you're in both of these environments 80+% of your life, maybe, or something like that. So just things to take into account based on each scenario, to you know, use your sales a little bit. Use those metrics, use statistics. That are proven by legitimate sources. Has helped a lot for sure. And also, I mean, you were talking about like the approaching sales, being knowledgeable of your current laws or your current statutes going around. It's definitely helpful because you don't want to guide the individual into the wrong investment either, when this investment is going to be useless. And we've actually turned down some clients, really some installations, wanting to give us money or pay us for a gas to gas installation, and we're just not in the market to do that. We don't want to take your money and then in a couple years you come back and complain that it was not worthwhile, and etc. So being able to say no and knowing when to say no is also a big factor in sales and longevity of not just business, but just in life in general. Not jumping into every opportunity, because that's not where the money is either. You take up all the yeses, and then a really good yes comes about, but you have no more space for the good yes. That's also troubling.
Yeah, I was one of my next questions was going to be, when do you say no? Because obviously, like you just explained, not all money is good money, but you answered that and did a great job answering it. So, yeah, a good thing to know when it's not for you sometimes.
Yeah. Or sometimes, when to say no is like if they want to provide their own equipment and materials and they just want to pay for labor. I'm like, that's just not going to work for us. Deteriorates the whole process. Warranties become tricky when you're not the one buying it and they buy, and you know what I mean? That's just messy. So
Yeah.
not all
The
money is good money.
the half DIY
Yeah.
clients. Just knowing when a customer, like, I'm sure maybe we can go into this too,
Yeah, yeah.
um like your customer red flags.
Customer flags, you said it. I mean, DIY for sure. DIY, if they already put hands on it and they're calling you to fix it, it's a mess. It's gonna be a mess. You're gonna waste your time because you're probably not gonna find the right solution, because then you have to revamp the entire installation from start to finish. That's a big red flag. Second biggest red flag for sure is clients coming to you promising more business. That's a cliche in the trade world where, oh, give me a good deal. I got two other friends, two other family members, or I got a multi-unit, 10 plus unit. Oh, cool. And when you're starting out, like, it's enticing because that's all you kind of have to attack, right? But that's the biggest scam in the world, I guess in this market. Never, if someone says that, they're gonna try to screw you, and they have no more business for you. That'll be the last of it,
Yeah.
for sure.
I've 110% heard that before. Um, I've also noticed this is like maybe applicable too, but um, at least in my line of business, doing like the marketing and consulting stuff, where it's like the guys that want to talk the loudest about how much money they're making are the ones that are like never qualified to do it. You know, yeah, dude, our business is doing 6 million bucks, blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, our service is like 2 grand a month. They're like crickets. Like, oh, okay. The ones that want, it's like whatever they're trying overly hard to like justify or project is like a lot of times what they're lacking. So with homeowners, that is definitely probably applicable, maybe in different areas or whatever. But yeah, dude, give me a good price because I got more business for you. That's a classic, dude. A
Yeah,
good example of
that's
that.
a classic. And hand in hand with this one, something that took a couple years to learn, and it's harder to identify, is when it's when it's not so much residential, when it gets more commercial, um, multi-unit. A lot of people, and these are seasoned contractors who know how to exploit, the earlier players in the game. Is they'll send you an RFP, or request for proposal, saying like, hey, like I have these plans, can you provide me a proposal based on this? But sometimes you have to be careful, ask the right questions. Sometimes they don't even have the building under lease. They're just negotiating the lease. They're kind of just getting started. All they have is blueprints to the place. And what they want a lot of contractors to do is get all the drawings, get all the metrics, get all the measurements, the equipment selection, the optimal setup. They'll get it from you for free because you're offering free proposals. Um, at least that's how the way we do it. Free proposals, and then they take that free proposal. They know exactly what they're looking for. They go to somebody else. They sell your build or they give your build to somebody else who doesn't have to do all the work. So they're gonna give them a better price because the time they saved. And you just got screwed. You just spend your technician's time. You spend your office hours doing that. But it's harder to identify because then they come in as a little bit more honest, like I have this, etc., etc. So just gotta make sure you ask the right questions to not fall into that trap. Or something I've started doing now is we have to go under some sort of contract. I'll give you a very sporadic ballpark with a big range. You decide if it's within, and if you want drawings, calculations, J manual, whatever. Like we have to be on the contract at this point. You know what I mean? So give them something to have an idea. Don't give them everything on a silver platter, because then they're gonna take that and run with it, and then get a cheaper price somewhere else. But that one takes a little bit of time, I would say.
Yeah. Is that mostly, I know you said for commercial, but like new construction type of deal, is that
Yeah,
more
like new
specifically what?
construction generally is going to be a general contractor reaching out to you, or an architectural firm or an engineering firm that's going to reach out with these requests. It's not going to be a homeowner ever, really. It's going to be like a third party player kind of in there, doing it for them. So you can kind of gauge once you see enough of them, you're going to know who's the real source, who's a management company, who is the middleman, and etc. Um, yeah, it takes time, but there's people out there. There's sharks everywhere. In every industry, there's a shark who is trying to eat up the little fish. So yeah, I would say that. And I think to your main question, the main question was, I think are we still on the red flags, or I think we jump
Sure.
on
Yeah,
onto
yeah.
the middle, right? I did have one more that was pretty important. Uh, I'm blanking on it now. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. Yeah.
Yeah, on the subcontractor, doing the blueprints on not under contract thing, I can just totally see how even if you're like a little bit newer in business, you get super excited thinking you just got your first like
Yeah.
bigger commercial job or something like that. So like you work really, really hard on this proposal, make sure it's like top notch, and then you submit it, and then you never hear back from them ever again. It's just like, all right, that's
They
tough.
sting. Those sting, man, a little bit, because you just got played.
Yeah, you did a lot of the heavy lifting for someone else to just go slap it together and make, whatever. Yeah.
Price to pay. Price to pay to. It's a. I guess I call it the learning cost. That's a
Mhm.
learning cost. You know, it's valuable to some extent. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, there's plenty of things like that where someone watching this could hear that story and be like, "Okay, got it." But you'll still fall for it when it happens to you, and then once you learn it for yourself, it's like that's when it becomes ingrained in
yeah,
like your actual understanding. There's so many things like I wish advice that I got that I should have taken or whatever. And then it's like, I went and did the thing anyway. And it's like, sometimes you don't learn unless you like get the scars yourself.
yeah.
So it's tough, but for anyone watching, hopefully you can, dodge some of the potholes we're talking about.
Some
But
people learn the hard way.
yeah.
The other one came back. One last red flag, because this one is an easy peasy one, where if a client is asking you for a discount while requesting the most expensive equipment. Analyze the situation a little further. Why are they asking for a discount and why are they asking for the most expensive? Do you want to save money? And this is what baffles me every time. Is like, you want to save money? I can save you money. Just get lower tier equipment. Not horrible. It's not gonna be bad equipment. Just you're not gonna be buying Mercedes Benz type equipment. Buy, a Toyota or Chevy type of equipment, and it's great. It's gonna be fine. But those clients, they're always gonna try to rip you off if it's not in the initial install or the initial contract price or sticker price. They're gonna try to jip you while you're doing the installation, or they're gonna delay your payment until they have it whenever they want. And there's gonna be a troublesome client. Is from what I gauged when they're advantageous in their negotiations. It's not good. It's not good, and I've learned the hard way for sure. Just because you want to get a sale, you wanna put it out there, you want to close a contract, and you rush to it. But sometimes you end up losing money and you end up going negative. If you sometimes you're better off not taking it. Lose no money, wait a day or two, get a different project. You know what I mean? So that's a big one. Takes time too.
Saying no and walking away from money feels hard in the moment, but it pales in comparison to how shitty you're going to feel when you're doing a job knowing that you're working for free.
Yeah.
That's even worse. Like being busy just for being busy, or cutting the price, or, getting nickeled and dimed on stuff and knowing that you're working for like basically break even, like that sucks too. So,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes, like
Agree.
you said, just wait a day or two, know when to take your chips off the table and just be like, all right, like that's
Yeah.
fine. You know,
Yeah.
if you want to get all woo-ha, you can call it the abundance mindset. Like, we don't need this. There's another one. There's a better client that'll show up. We'll let this be someone else's headache, someone else's problem. So
100%, man. I mean, some people believe in abundance and prosperity, some don't, but it's true, man. If you're tapped into that kind of mindset, it's gonna come. Because if you're always stressing and lacking, like if you understand lack and prosperity and all that stuff, like you're gonna attract only lacking clients who are not up to what you're looking for. You know what I mean? And it's that's a perfect example, man. That's a perfect example.
yeah, 100%. On that too, cheap prices attract cheap customers. So there's a lot of guys that are, and I've been there too. I totally get it. Like, especially the technician turned business owner, where they went from getting paid 25 or 30 bucks an hour to charging 15 grand for a unit. It's like that disparity. It almost feels like it's not okay. Like, and I joke with some of them where it's like, dude, it sounds like you're allergic to money. Like,
Yeah.
but it's like they have this mindset where they almost feel like it's a challenge, like asking someone for a higher amount of money than maybe you've ever been comfortable for in the past can sometimes feel like a big leap. Or for the guys that, um, I run into a lot of contractors who, like you, they're like, I just want to do honest, good work. I'm not trying to rip anybody off. Like, I want to just do right by my customers and give them a fair price. And they believe that, and they do fulfill on that, but they struggle with their business, and it's like they're not making their own ends meet because they don't want to raise their prices. And so I think it's important for them to understand that charging a higher price attracts a higher quality customer, that you will be able to deliver a higher quality service. And those are the people that at the end of the day will truly appreciate you being the type of person that wants to do good, honest work. Because
Yeah.
the cheap prices attract the cheap customers who don't give a fuck about any of that.
Yeah.
They don't care if you did the right thing and, whatever. They want Joe Schmo, the quick buck, to come in and do it and fix the thing, right? So
Yeah.
I think that there is a way mentally to tie doing a good job and delivering a quality, honest service with charging a higher price. And for some guys, that disconnect keeps them stuck, but there is definitely a world where those two things exist in the same
Yeah,
realm for sure.
it's a good balance to find. And going back to your point that you make, going from technician to business owner, this is something that I try to navigate a little bit because I'm not. I don't think technically at all, right? Senior tech on the field, they think that's the way they think all day. Technically, and it's finding that balance because there's sometimes where my guys would go in there trying to do right by the client, and they only go and they only fix that one thing because that's how you get it working again, and that's it, right? But there's but that's all they do, right? And that's fine, and the client's happy, but they don't try to optimize the opportunity of being in the home already. You know what I mean? So it's being able to be really good technically, but also opening up your mind to the opportunity that you paid for that lead. You're in that home. Something broke down here already. This home is probably in a state where it needs a few other things. Let's take a look at what we can provide to them. Not only just sell them, but provide the value to them of the services that we're providing. Like, let's go ahead and check the filters. Let's go ahead and check the outdoor unit. Let's go check the indoor unit. Why not? We're already here. Maybe something needs upkeep. Maybe they want some maintenance agreements going on, or maybe the HVAC is you fixed it, but then there's some electrical stuff that needs some work, and you notice and you point it out, and then you can make an additional buck. But again, doing right by the client and not wasting opportunity of the time that it's already there. So I hope that makes sense to the people listening. Like, be technical, be really good at what you do, but then try not to be so technical that that's the only thing you want to fix and look at, and then you leave, right? Like, okay, let's try to, a better air filtration system, or an attachment that does X, Y, and Z better than you're currently having, and it's a win-win for both parties. You make a little more money, they have better health in their home, and it's at a minimal increase, a slight sell, if you will. So it's a balance. Like, you don't want to go in there, fix a capacitor or a fan blower, and then come out with like 4,000 repairs. You might as well get a new system. At that point, spending another extra thousand, get them a new system, right? So there's an in betweener. Some people take advantage. Some people don't take advantage at all. And that's kind of where you lose. You can lose in both scenarios. You know what I mean? Yin yang type.
For sure. For sure. I think what you just said is probably the missing link maybe for some of the other guys, where it's like, you don't need to take a $300 to $500 replacement of a part and turn it into a $20,000 install when a person doesn't need it. But that's like sort of the vertical pricing, but like what you just said is like just lateral, like stepping to this. Okay, well, there's this piece for this unit, but here's some of the other things. Or like you said, go outside, check the other unit there. Like, there's other little things that you're probably aware of and could diagnose that are there that might be like a couple smaller fixes instead of just going for the high ticket, like, oh, you need a whole new everything. Like, that doesn't have to be the only upsell. It doesn't have to be going up in price. It can be sidestepping to a couple other tiny little things that add up, and just, the average ticket price, average revenue per, visit at a home, like, goes up, and that's important. So,
it's keeping the old classic cliche. You make a sale, you make a buck, you make a client, you keep him for a lifetime. Like, you treat him right. And I mean, if you're trying to run a trade business, you probably want to do it for at least 10, 20 years. I mean, this is, a manufacturer warranty is 10. You have a client of year one, you're going to have to service them 10 years from now unless you go bankrupt or whatever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So keeping the long-term scope, like, they're not going anywhere. You hopefully, if health allows and you stay healthy and etc. and life goes well, they're going to be there, you know what I mean? So it's not rushing. Let's not rush here. Let's just go here. Because if you take care of their little thing here, 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 you build rapport, you build trust. They're gonna do the thing eventually, one point or another, or they're gonna buy a new home. I've had that happen before. Like we did an install for a client. They sell that home, they buy a new one. They want the same setup in the new home, and that works wonders. That to me is the best type of client. We did one of your houses, you have another one. Let's go ahead and do the same thing. But yeah, man, don't go skyrocketing into everything. Let's say for example, you make two, three, 600 extra bucks per visit per service call. You know, you're paying for the overhead. You're paying for some expenses. At the very least, you're paying for the gas to go around to all these appointments. You know what I mean? But yeah, little by little, man, little by little.
Sure. So the big question is like me and you are having this conversation and understand this stuff. How do you get your techs on board? How do you train the people that are actually going into the houses this stuff?
It's hard. It's hard, man. Honestly, I think it's pretty hard because it's understandable because I only push so much because once you start growing a little bit, your technicians are from project to project, jumping hoop to hoop, and if it's a lead technician, they gotta be training the junior techs, and and it's a lot, so so I can understand where sometimes there's just so much going on where you miss a little thing here and there, but it's just kind of having that discipline or just that habit of doing it. But I don't. I wish I had a better answer, but I guess it's just me staying on top of it and reminding them from time to time, or me doing some back end work on the phone, like either before or afterwards. Like, oh, if it's after the visit, like how everything go. Is there anything else? Is there anything else that you might need? Because let's say they call for a specific service, you service them, etc., and then you want to leave. You want to do like a little send off, like, oh, by the way, thanks for choosing us for this. We also do this, this, and this. And then, oh, actually, and you never know, man. Like, you'd be surprised the amount of times where you mentioned a service you provide that they had no clue about, and they're planning that exact same service in the next coming weeks, because they're doing, home renovations or etc. And you just kind of catch it. So it's always good to disclose your repertoire of services. Attack the problem, and then leave them with a little, hey, you know, here's what else we can do, and that comes, working the sales side of things too. Like having that ready, having that info ready. But as for the text, man, like I guess doing more trainings through like distributors and stuff like that as well. A lot of distributors, they put a lot of money into training because if we sell better, they make more money, obviously. So I encourage anybody who has those connections or those opportunities come on their desk. Send some of your guys. Don't send the whole team, but send some guys who can then trickle down that information to the other guys as well. That could be the biggest first point to start is go to your distributors for that help.
Sure. You said that some of that can be done with sort of after the fact with, someone like yourself or people that are following up and kind of just rounding things off with, putting the bow on top and, finalizing, closing everything out. Is there any sort of like checklist or things that you give any of your guys that are going into the homes as far as like, here's our standard operating procedure of how you should diagnose and then come up with like good, better, best, or like, upsell, downsell, here's the thing we actually want them to buy, that sort of,
Mhm.
structure?
I don't, and it's something that I honestly I could implement, and I think it would be helpful to implement. So anybody hearing this, definitely do that exact process for sure. I don't have that just because in the kind of environment we're in, I there's just a lot of things going on, um, where I need more manpower for that to be efficient. You know what I mean? Like at this point, I need a little bit more guys who can learn that, and that be kind of their kind of attack point. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, definitely develop that. I'm going. I need to develop that 100%. Like little checklist, check all these metrics. I'm probably gonna put that on my board right now. Hey, you forgot to do this, and it's a good reminder. So thank you for that
Sure.
as well.
Right on. I love that this has kind of turned into like the sales masterclass. This is like kind of my domain too, like the sales and marketing piece. I don't get to talk with a lot of guys this in depth about it. So with that being said, is there anything related to the sales process that I should have asked that you're like, oh dude, this is something that these guys should know?
Yeah, like sales marketing. I would say, I mean, this is something I did. This is something silly, but um, having a easy enough name where it's like, for example, I just use AJ for the business. You know what I mean? It's people are gonna remember AJ, and it's easy and it's fast. You know what I mean? So that's something that I learned, or I guess I implemented not too long ago. Because then when people are spending like the first 30 seconds of the phone call, like if you have a name that's not common, and you're introducing yourself, and you're telling the client, oh, that's how you spell it, and you're spending the introduction on your name, you're losing business and you're losing traction.
So
So
many.
that's yeah, man. So that's what
Yeah.
I would. That's the one thing I implemented, and it's strange at the beginning, but you just get used to it. And it's like an actor name. Like if you go act, they have an actor name. Like you go do business, they have a business name. It's fine, whatever. It feels a little weird at the beginning, but keep it kind of close to home. I guess don't completely change it and do a whole different thing. But that's one of the things that's been good, helpful, and gains traction. Okay, this is a good one, a good point that I learned when I was doing like a class on kind of selling this stuff is, it goes back to the pricing, dynamics where if someone's really kind of asking for that discount or really pushing that discount, and as you mentioned, the cheap client is gonna a cheap price is gonna attract the cheap client. All they care about bottom line. They care about bottom line, money spent, nothing else. They don't care about not only the brand, but they don't care about the quality of the material being used to install the actual thing. So it's two phases too, like high quality equipment and then high quality material. If you start installing the best of the best with the shittiest material, it's not gonna work. It's just not gonna work, and it's gonna debunk itself at one point or another. All the cracks in there. But something I learned is, let's say you have a $2,000 difference. Let's keep it simple. You're fighting a $17K bid against a 15K bid, and everything's the same. Same equipment, same scope of work, etc. Same everything, same warranties. We can touch on warranties. That's a good selling point as well. Uh, One of the things that I never forget is the instructor put it this way, where like you tell the homeowner, okay, you have a 50, you're gonna buy a truck. One is 17,000, one is 15,000. They're identical, identical. Can't tell them apart. But one of them was assembled by the local high school kind of mechanics club, and the other was put together by the actual distributor and the people behind the workings of it. So you compare it like that, like you want the expert, you want the high school team installing the same product, you're gonna have the same, but who put it together? It's the one liner that kind of helped me close some deals and push that $1,000 $2,000 difference in price. um, Again, you have to be available, communicative, friendly, customer service facing, and then you put that to tie it all together. You will win that bid if you're competing against a company that's not as high quality in your craftsmanship, for sure. That's gonna win some bids.
100%. I like that line. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, it's not a direct comparison to that, but like even with what I do, a lot of times I have to spend a lot of time educating customers on like SEO, for example, is the one that pops into mind immediately, where it's like, as soon as I have to start talking about like schema, backlinks, all of this stuff, the guy's like, dude, I just want my website to show up at the top of Google. Like it's like, it's something very, very complex, but for them, it's like very, very simple, and confused people don't buy. Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like in that example, the more that I start to explain what actually goes into it and what gets done, the more confused they are. So like by answering their question, I almost create more questions. And I have 6, 7 years of experience that I'm trying to, you know,
Yeah.
get into their brain. And they're just like, you know what I mean? Or explaining someone that's not to someone that's not an engineer. What does a SEER rating actually mean? Or like, how does the technical, like, imagine having to explain that to a customer. And I'm sure some people ask, and it's like a
Yeah.
total headache where you're like, all right, how much time do you have? We're going to sit down and have dinner, and I'll like explain this
Yeah.
all to you if you really, really want to know.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've tried to do is take those slightly more complex things and explain it in a way that makes sense and put it in like simple terms. So it's not like I'm trying to not answer the question, but I know that if I explain it in like the full technical jargon, they're going to be more confused than when they started. So I try to put it in other terms that make a lot more sense. And as far as relating it back to what you were saying, using metaphors or like examples,
Yeah.
like you said, where it's like two identical trucks, but one was put together by the local automotive club and one was put together by like, you know, Ford dealership, right? It's like, which one do you trust more? The little examples like that, where you like, you're painting the picture, answering the question, but you're not like going crazy in depth about it, and just saying less by saying more and using a simple example that's easy to understand. Something like that I have found too helps a lot, where it's like, just getting them to understand and see the value, or see the result, see the process, whatever the question is about.
You're saying all this and my mind is going like this, like sprinklers going off, because it's something I forgot even to mention, and I'm glad you brought up, is you gotta dumb it down to the bone sometimes, really. And sometimes, talking with my team is like, sometimes we have to attack these proposals or kind of clients as if they're completely negligent, and this is the first time they're hearing about this. Is the way I like to approach some of these scenarios, because yeah, man, you can get into the backlinks and the redirects and etc. And it's not, what the hell is that? You just want it to work. People want to turn on their AC and it works, type of thing. So don't get complex. And I feel like that's maybe a gray area where people might think, oh, the more I know and the more expert I seem like, the more trust I'm gonna have. But you're gonna just scare people away who just don't have the time for that, or the capacity, or just the overall understanding of the real nitty gritty, like, sauce.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the easiest way to sort of navigate that, or at least understand what that person is really after, is like, yes, you have to answer their questions, but they're asking about the process, but what they really want is confirmation on, are they going to get the result that they want? And so when you shift the conversation away from the process, like how the sausage is made, and just go to, the final product and what the benefits are, and kind of the overall how it works, not like every single individual technical detail. Like sometimes you can skirt that conversation and make it work. And again, it's not like we're trying to be like, oh, stupid homeowner, don't ask questions. It's like, if I told you, you wouldn't understand. So it's like, I'm going to try to make it make sense to like a third grader, and give you like the ABCs version of it, with like more so leaning into this, and this, and here's how it produces the end result, and like doubling down and giving them the confirmation that like, you don't need to understand the full process, but what you're going to get on the other side of it, what it produces is this, and that's what you want. Better quality air in the home, AC, better comfort, all the list of the benefits, right?
Yeah, man. You nailed it, and you nailed it. I mean, if you're gonna go into sales, apply a good pipeline and apply this, and you go a long way. for sure. Uh, Man, like I have multiple like just examples of people asking the most ridiculous questions too. But I'm like, you just don't. And here's the other thing. It's changing a little bit because now people, it's so easy for them to go into an AI chat bot LLM and then have information given to them that they wouldn't have found otherwise on a Google search. And now they're coming in with all these ridiculous questions about E manual, J manual, D manual. I'm like, you don't even know what each of these things do. Why do you want these things? Like, yes, I can do it, but then it's gonna cost you a little more and etc. But it's there's just more information out there too. It's more information out there, and I feel like clients are gonna get more aggressive as well in terms of their demands because that now they know. You know what I mean? So I feel like we understand that kind of bubble, but now I feel like it's kind of going in a different direction where now people are gonna understand in a quick read on a chat bot, what all these things they're gonna start asking you, but they still not gonna know. So it doesn't even matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
In
crazy.
my experience, like if you want to talk about a potential customer red flag, at least for me, like there is nothing that turns me off more than hopping on a sales call with someone that wants to explain to me how my job should be done
Yes.
because they did a 5-minute ChatGPT deep dive.
Yes,
It's
dude.
like, dude, it's what is it called? It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect or something like that, where it's like at the beginning you know nothing, and then you learn a little bit and you think you know everything, and then you actually start to really learn and know that you know nothing. So it's
Yeah.
like there's nothing more dangerous than like a half-baked, half-educated customer that knows the lingo or the jargon or the fancy tech words and thinks they have their head. Oh, there's no sales guy that's going to pull one over on me because I know my shit. It's like those people are so difficult to work with, and you have to tread carefully because you can't just be like, shut the fuck up, dude, like you don't know what you're talking about, because they're coming into this conversation thinking like, oh, I'm educated and I'm going to tell this guy blah blah blah. But yeah, those guys are tricky to deal with in my
Yeah.
experience, because those are also the same people that are going to like look over your shoulder while you're doing the install and like tell you what to do, or like ask more
Yeah.
questions, or like nitpick the process. So it's like,
Yeah,
if
man.
you think you can do a better job, why am I here?
Yes. Why are
And
you
that's the
exactly?
that's the workaround. You booked this call with me. Like you scheduled us to come show up. So, it's not like you have to little bro them or like whatever, but it's like at the end of the day, like, dude, I'd be happy to answer your questions. I understand like this and this about the process. That's great, but like, at the end of the day, like you called me for a reason, right? So like if you know everything, why am I here? And a lot of times that's when they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. Shit. I should
And
just
then they
listen to
listen,
what
and
you
then
say.
they finally listen, maybe.
Yeah.
Nah, man, those are some of the worst clients for sure. Like you have it firsthand. You know how to do it. You know how to build it. They want to tell you how to build it, and they don't know how to get to the end product. That's the thing. If you know how to get to the end product, just get there. But it's the same thing with my a big like complaint I hear from my text is when a client is trying to tell us how to configure their HVAC system so it works for their budget, and really just that, like they want to do a system that's not going to work. It's and it's like, dude, like you just cannot. And we've turned down clients. You have to turn them down when they are hard-headed, where they don't want to listen to the recommendation and they want it a specific way because they read somewhere, or they heard somewhere a snippet, and they think that's, or their friend told them, etc. And then they think that's the right way to go. But yeah, stay away from that for sure. I mean, you learn the hard way on with those clients too,
Yeah.
because then maybe you can tell me if this resonates with you. Like they come back with like, oh, I know all this information, and then you kind of want to not one up them, but then kind of prove a point. Like, no, like this is just not the way to go. And then you kind of just go. It's a bickering back and forth where you just never get anywhere either, because they're close-minded. They don't have the open mind to just listen or learn or anything further than that initial spec of info.
Yeah. The workaround, and I think the fix for me, or at least in those sales conversations, the way that I've framed it is, okay, prospect, like clearly you have a little bit of an understanding about how this stuff works, and that's great. And I'm not saying that the information that you have is wrong or bad. However, I have 6 years plus of experience implementing this, doing it for real on customers' homes. And so there's a lot of things to be gained from the experience of applying it as well. In my example as well, it's like, yeah, so we do SEO and we run paid ads, and here are all the companies that we've worked with, and here's the results that we've gotten for them. We got those results using our process. So if you would like the results that we've gotten for other clients, then you're going to have to trust our process that we use to get them. But what can't happen is when you have the expectation that we're going to deliver our results with your process. And that's the difference. So it's like, if you want our end result, you're going to have to trust our process and let us do our job. Like, don't try to get in if you want this thing, don't tell me how to get from point A to point B to make it happen. Like, we do this every day, dude. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that in the sales situation, that's how I've kind of gotten them to like maybe humble themselves a little bit, or not be so like ready to ask a bunch of questions and like try to prove they're trying to prove that they know something about it. And so a lot of times the more that you try to like suppress that or deflate them, like trying to outsmart them or like dump more info on them and prove that you're smarter is not the way to go. It's easier to just acknowledge the fact, okay, so you know X, Y, and Z, that's great. I don't, there's a lot of information out there. Some of it's great, some of it's bad. I'm not saying whoever you learned this from or your ChatGPT search, was right or wrong. But, in my experience, this is what's going on with your HVAC unit. The result that you want is this. Here's how we do it. If you want our result, I can show you 100 other homes that look just like yours, people that were in your exact situation that had this problem. Here's how we solved it. Here's how it turned out. If you want the end result, trust our process, and that's how we're going to deliver it. So, yeah.
That's the only way you can build a relationship, really. I mean, it goes back 100 years or even thousands of years. Trust is the connecting factor from that phone call to the product. You just don't trust the guy. Don't call him. don't call the guy.
Yeah,
man.
Or it's like, hey, XYZ prospect. It sounds to me like you're educated, and I would guess that means that you probably just wanted to learn about this and how it all works so that you know if a job's done right. Don't try to address the concern, acknowledge the concern, and maybe try to go a level deeper where it's like, hey, you did all of this research. Why? You're not an HVAC tech. Why do you care to know all this stuff? Have you been screwed over in the past? Has something happened where it didn't work out well? Or maybe try to go a level deeper and understand why the person would go through the effort to try to learn those things anyway. So it's that's one other thing where if you ask them that in a polite way, that might actually give you some more ammo for the sales conversation for the close later too.
100%. And I think, at least in my experience, when clients come in this hot, it's because most often than not, they've been screwed over in the past by somebody who did them dirty. So again, it's only leverage for you. Oh, you understand. Okay, now I see where you're coming from. You've been screwed in the past. Let me assure you why, or not assure, don't give me any assurances, but let me explain or show you some of the ways we operate differently. Or, if they ask for a testimonial, I don't like giving testimonials because you can go on Google business page and just read it. But if they really want one, I'll send you a referral, not referral, but, a testimony, etc. It's the best way to go. But I would, dive deeper for sure, man. Dive deeper, diagnose. There's always a why. There's always a why. Diagnose what happened and then use it as ammo. Okay, if they've been screwed over, now you know how to calm their nerves a little bit too. I feel like those clients who have been screwed over, to me, I kind of like those a little bit. Not when they come in extra hot with all the jargon at the beginning, but when they've been screwed over and then I can show them a different experience, and at the end of it, they're like, "Wow, I didn't even know this could turn out this well." And then they just leave you a review. It's great, and they refer you to all their friends, etc. If you can have the energy and the discipline and can convert those clients who've been screwed over, those are going to be lifetime clients for sure. So it's a blessing and a curse sometimes. Maybe if you agree, like if you attack it well, and I can tell, your customer service level is definitely high up there in terms of de-escalating and having that sway in the conversation, because definitely don't want to be rude. You don't want to turn them off or you want to piss them off, because they're already, if they're loaded up with all this info, they're probably pissed off at something, or they got a lot of shit going on. You know what I mean? So de-escalation, identifying the problem, alleviating the problem, and capitalizing on it. It's the key, 100%.
Yeah. With those types of people, I am struggling to think of a scenario where it makes sense in the sales conversation to go on offense.
Yeah.
You're only going to escalate that and make it worse. They're coming into the conversation with the loaded gun of like, I got before, you're not going to get me too. And it's like, this, if you think about it like this, here's a guy who's been divorced 3 times, and you're going to walk into his house and ask him to marry you on the first date. He's got some baggage, dude. He's got some problems that were not created by you, but by people like you. And so now you have, like you said, and you nailed this, like, this is an opportunity for you to prove that you're different, but you're going to have to navigate this carefully and with some patience to not step on the landmines that the other contractors placed there for you to fuck up at. And if you can unravel that customer's, previous experiences, bad regrets, they got screwed, blah, blah, blah. If you can find a way to navigate those things and give them a better experience and result at the end of it, like you said, they will become lifelong customers. Those are going to be like the most loyal customers if they turn out and things go that way. Or it's like at some point it might make sense to just have, and it's one of those things where it's like you're going to have to do it a couple times and get a feel for it, but knowing when to walk away. Like there's only 2 ways that particular example ends. And it's like super loyal, awesome customer that is really thankful you took the time with them to do all that. Or, it's like you get to a certain point where you're like, all right, dude, this one's going to be someone else's headache because
100%
not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the next guy in line. I'm not going to be the 4th divorce. You know what I mean? Yeah. Fuck that. So.
Yeah. Sometimes it's better to pass them on. If you identify you gotta go somewhere else 100%. But people, because you're saying, your experience is heavy in sales, but if people listening to this and this is like you are diving into sales and you want to get better at it, like for me, like I love an opportunity. I love someone who is negating the fact that they want to move forward. I take it as an opportunity. I never take it as even though we know it's difficult, you got to shift into your sales mindset. Like, okay, I might not even get a sale out of this. Sometimes I go into a call, I know I'm not going to make the sale, but I try to identify some qualities here and there that I can use for a different client, because you just learn how to identify, pockets of opportunity. But if you can take some of these clients, and then if you have the courage or, the energy to dive into a call that is going to be a regrettable call, try it out. I would say try it out to get your gears and then get your patterns in place and stuff like that, because those are the most rewarding if you get it right, for sure. So that's what I would say to people wanting to. But you have to love sales. You have to love sales. You have to love talking to people. You have to love signing, closing a contract for that to work, for sure.
And have a little bit of not only empathy and like being able to read and understand the other person, and also be like curious and willing to ask hard questions, and not be like socially awkward or uncomfortable, because there's certain things you're going to have to do or say that there's going to be a moment of discomfort on the other end. or like whether it's coming back to you in the form of them asking a question or having something to say. But yeah, it takes a little bit of like, I guess, emotional intelligence, being able to read people and understand that. But when you're good at it and you get it, and you can be a little bit of a people person, but also maybe like slightly financially motivated, where you're like, dude, I want these contracts and I'm going to do what I
Yeah.
have to. Like, that's the perfect blend of like, once you get a little bit of a taste for it and you're good at it. And if you're a business owner, again, to the technician turned business owner, a lot of these guys, no business, no sales training, whatever. And the salesman identity or label gives them the ick. I don't want to be an annoying sales guy. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if you shift the mindset from I'm going to sell this person to I'm going to help this person, and my business, my solution just happens to be the best fit for helping them, completely eliminates that high pressure, icky salesman kind of vibe that some people, just by giving them that title, makes
Dude,
them like uncomfortable.
that's a great way to put it. I mean, applaud to that analogy, or that the way you put it together, because I'm gonna start implementing that exact way you said it to people I come across that are like, oh, sales, nah, fuck that, like that's annoying, or
Mm.
it's gimmicky, or it's a sell, it's a middleman. But it's more than that. If you have the foundation as to where you're gonna take the sale to, like you're gonna take it to the company, to your service. It's different than like doing sales as a broker, because you're just a middleman. You're gonna get it, pass it on, and you're done. But with this structure, or even if you're doing contracting, or in your example, you're doing social media, like you're calling them, but you're gonna give them something at the end of the day, and then they're gonna refer to you for the guidance to use it. So it's a little bit different. So shifting that, it's brilliant, man. I'm taking some golden nuggets from you, to apply 100%.
Yeah. That one there has been helpful, I think, for other guys too, whether it's them as the technician, now they have to go sell for their own business, or if you have a team of techs and you're trying to get them to do the little things, like do the checklist, do a couple upsells, like, hey, it cost us this much just to send you to this person's house. So it's like, we know that not 100% of the time we're going to leave the customer's house breaking even or making money on this, but we have to try to shoot as many shots and get points on the board whenever possible. Because if not, we lose money and go out of business. And that sucks, right? Like, no one wants that. So framing it from like, sell this person to help this person is a good way to start training the techs that maybe don't want to be sales guys, but it's part of their job. Like, they have to do it. And then the second thing that I think is helpful for guys that have that I'm allergic to money, like they don't want to upsell, they don't want to charge the high ticket price, or it's also very helpful when you're dealing with objection handling. So like you get a pushback on the price or whatever, and it's like, instead of just folding and lowering the price or getting upset that they have questions, like you can't do that. You have to always kind of spin it back in the right direction. A good sort of mental frame: if you go to most contractors and say, like, are you the best HVAC tech in your area? Most of them are going to say, hell yeah, I am, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, okay, if that's true, you are doing a disservice by letting this customer walk away and go get served by someone else who's going to do a less good of a job than you.
Yeah.
So is it a high pressure, close, make this money? It's like, no, dude, we're trying to help people and we're the best. So we should really push to close our own service, because we are the best fit for this person. Like, we're going to help them the most by being the ones to do this job. So that's another little like mental shift where that you can be like, I'm not the pushy sales guy. I'm trying to help you and we're the best. So it makes sense for you to go with us. You know what I mean?
You gotta have that mentality. You gotta have that ship 100%. Again, goes with law of attraction, abundance too. It's the same, hand in hand. You know what I mean? If that's your gears grinding, that's exactly where you're gonna attract for sure.
Sweet.
I like that, man. And I guess one thing with the difficult clients, it's a little trick, I guess. And if you're in the trades, and you've been in the trades, and there's specific types of people who they're always gonna want to haggle, always. And when you know, there's something I've always been doing. And because I found out, or at least maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, I don't know yet, but I found it to be almost like a game to them, where they actually don't even care about the final number. They just want to feel like they're winning in the negotiation, and if they feel like they're winning and they have one over you, they'll move forward. So then what I've been doing is just, I know this client is gonna be this way. So sometimes you just know, experience, a couple years of identifying people or screening them. You just go in a little bit higher, like build your proposal, and then don't exaggerate it where it's like they don't even want to look at it, but exaggerate it a little bit, and then cover yourself for that built-in discount that's already there. But you can't show them the discount from the beginning. You know what I mean? You can't show them the discount from the beginning. That's the price. They're gonna haggle you, and then they're gonna like. You almost have to say like, honestly, I'm gonna break even in this job, but I'll give you this price. But it was already predetermined, baked in. You've done your numbers. That has helped a little bit with those clients who are gonna move forward with somebody. And this is a little bit different with the ones who just want the cheapest and etc. It's a little bit different because they don't necessarily want the cheapest. They're asking for the best. They have the budget, but they just want to win the negotiation because that's their style. And I think you know exactly who that is, and people might know who that is. So just put yourself a buffer, and then you feel comfortable giving them the discount because it doesn't affect you. If anything, at that point I make it a game with myself as to like, damn, how much higher margin can I win because I built this buffer. If I go above the buffer, I'm winning extra type thing. So it's a game. If they want to treat it like a game, you can make it into your own little game and meet them in the middle. And then that's a good little playful strategy with certain clients.
Yeah. Best case scenario, you keep your margin. They feel like they got the best deal, best negotiator award. That's worst case scenario. Best case scenario is you baked in an extra couple 100,000 whatever dollars of profit, and they say yes, and now you're like, okay,
Yeah,
I guess that works too. So
it works. I don't know how, but it's like some psychological thing where it works, man. I don't know.
yeah,
Try it out.
there's definitely some people out there, and this is like way deeper into the sale. Like if all you did was sales, maybe it makes sense, but there is the like, you can like start to learn how to identify like people's personality types or like the things that are important to them, and like all the stuff you're saying where it's like after you do this for a couple of years, you start to get the like gut feeling or like the detector of like, oh, this is going to be a negotiator, bargainer type client. This is going to be the cheap client. This is going to be the guy that asks a bunch of questions. Like you get a feel for that and maybe subconsciously kind of pick up on which personality type it is without knowing if, oh, it's a ABSD personality, whatever the thing is. They have this shit baked to a science. Like you can go learn this if you want, but in general, like you'll kind of just start to get a little bit of a taste or a feel for it.
And that's what I'm saying. If you like sales, it's a never-ending learning kind of field. Honestly, it's enjoyable if you have the type of personality to want to learn about people, even though you might not, they might take you off from time to time, just because there's so many different personalities. You just never know, but you gotta like this. You gotta like this shit for it to make sense and click for sure, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
And
sir.
if it's not you, then it has to be someone. Like it's not for everybody. A lot of guys that start their own business, like by necessity, you're going to have to be the person that gets the first couple across the line. But if it's not you and you don't take an inkling to it and you don't have any motivation to learn it or whatever, like find someone who is, because there's nothing more important. Like sales and marketing are the two biggest revenue drivers for your business at the end of the day. Like if you want to grow, you're going to need to have
Yeah.
people and systems in place for both of those things. It's like, it's the oxygen for your business. So if it's not you and you recognize that, then at least put in some effort to finding someone who's going to take that role. So
What's like it's like three pillars in business. It's like it's the visionary, the operator, and the founder or something like that. Or there's a strategic way to set it up for it to work seamlessly because you can't be all three. You really can't. It's you can, but then you're gonna hit a roadblock for growth, 100%. Someone's got to look at the future. Someone's got to look at what's going on, and somebody's got to, keep it all together, type thing. So the that's something I'm trying to exploit a little bit more and implement, but
Yeah,
work in progress.
100%. If you look at your business like a sports team, it becomes a little easier to okay, so like we've got our quarterback, we've got our wide receiver, we've got our coach on the sideline calling the plays. Like each one of these things is very important and doesn't function without the others. But trying to squeeze someone into a role that they're not built for is like also going to create trouble. So it's kind of like, or another example, it's like chess pieces on a board, right? Like all the pieces serve a role in the strategy of the game, but also they all move a little bit different, or they might, be set up in a way where the two pieces are kind of synergistically, one benefits the other by doing a certain move in this way, or you might sacrifice a pawn for this thing to happen. Like, so seeing your business like that, where it's like, I have these different pieces, different people on the board. He's good at this, so I should put him here. This person likes to do this. Let's move them over to this role, and kind of just building the team based off of, who's good at what, and filling the different holes that need to be filled in the
Yeah,
kind
man.
of organizational structure of the business.
I forgot the specific saying, but there's something along, maybe it's like wasted talent is worse than something something. I forget what it is, but wasting talent, like not picking the right position or the right avenue to exploit your natural given kind of traits, it can be very detrimental for just career. I mean, imagine you're just stuck 10 years doing the wrong thing. Like you're just never gonna find your actual true potential. I feel like that's one of the most terrifying things. I feel like not identifying that early enough or too late in life or something. It can put you back years or decades even, for sure. Being just hackling at the trying to mine with a spoon. Like you're just not gonna get any gold ever, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just something for everybody, for
Yeah.
sure.
There is another saying that's kind of like that, and it's hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Right.
But in the example that you were saying, if you are talented at something and you work hard at it, like you're gonna dominate, bro. You're gonna
Yeah,
crush.
man.
So it's like you can brute force your way through it if you really want to, but it's way better to try to like wear the hat that you're the best at and let other people fill the gaps. And that's a trust thing too. A lot of business owners have trouble with that, letting other people fill that role and do it without being like micromanagey, or you got to trust people to do their job better than you and have confidence in that. So
Yeah. It's like you gotta at one point you gotta stop worrying about the price of the toilet paper in the office type thing. Like
mhm.
it's the little things you can't micromanage how many hand towels you got. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
long term vision.
for sure. We'll wrap up with this, dude, because we talked a lot about the sales process, tips, tactics, one line, all the things. This was a really good. We have to throw this up as like the sales masterclass. This was awesome. But
Cool, man. I wasn't even ready for that. If I would have known, I would have prepped a little more, man. That's my bread and butter. But go ahead,
there's
man.
been a lot of good nuggets, dude. Don't worry. This was epic. I wanted to know a little bit more about like the tech stack. So like as far as
Hmm.
tools, software, kind of the managing of all of this stuff, what's your guys' kind of system look like?
Like the software CRM type things, or just a stack of softwares and stuff.
Yeah, software stack, and then also kind of like the overarching sales process. So it's like we've got our website, our Google business, our name in these directories for the things. We've got a phone number. Someone calls, they go to our, call center, or our, CSR, who books them into our house call or
Hmm.
service titan, whatever, who gets sent into an
Yeah.
automation, and they're in our pipeline. We move them around in here. And then, like estimate gets sent. We do all of this. There's automations or texts we send them, or just kind of the whole
Yeah.
sales process, and like the different like softwares or tech stuff that's kind of built in that makes it all possible?
Absolutely. Yeah. So first, the first step really for us to, get any client is for sure a phone call. We have, the website where you can submit a form and request a specific, slot and etc. But it all starts with a phone call. Um, you have, to make a sale, it's always best over the phone. You can try to make a sale. Email is the worst to make a sale. Text works. On the phone, it's the best way to do it. So I always like to get on the phone to have those initial conversations. A good rule of thumb for the initial inbound call is if your call is not at least 3 minutes, I want to say 2 to 3 minutes at a very minimum, then I don't think it was that good of a call. Like if you're closing something in 1 minute, 15 seconds, you didn't get the most out of that phone call. You couldn't build any rapport. You couldn't really ask him much questions or get a good idea. Like I feel like 3 minutes minimum is a good way to go. Don't go over 7 minutes on an initial phone call because you got other shit to do throughout the day. You got to gauge. Between 3 and 7 is a good sweet spot. At least what I found. Um, you kind of learn one, two things about them, one, two things about the home, two, three things they're looking for in the future, two, three things they've been through as we spoke about. You want to get a full picture because when it comes time to send the proposal, now you have some ammunition and some things you remember and you can use that if you're good at at that initial inbound. So then, yeah, they want to set up an appointment. The way I do it is, via I can either take their info down on the spot, or what I like to do personally is send them a text message. That's how you start off the report. Hey, let me send you a direct message from my direct line. Just shoot me over your email address so there's no spelling mistakes, and now you can text me if something changes from now until then. So now there's a personal connection. There's like, oh, I have the direct line. I can text them. Let's say it's for tomorrow. Something comes up at nighttime. They text me 9. I want to cancel. They can text me or whatever. Or they can just cancel. On the thing, right? But it just builds that extra bridge of connectivity. Put them on the schedule on the CRM. We use Housecall Pro. We signed up for Service Setting in the past. Many contractors are probably familiar or use it. A lot of contractors probably use Housecall Pro as well. I think the two more popular options. Service Titan, if you're big and if you have a lot of dispatching and a lot of if you have a lot, I think it's worth it, because then if you're kind of in the middle, it's not worth the price jump because Housecall Pro is so much more economical and it serves you to what you need and more. So Housecall Pro is great. I don't have any complaints. Been using it. We retracted from the service time and contract. We got to cancel the contract because we just didn't want to use it. And they answer. I mean, for people looking for CRMs, they answer the phone. They have you can text them. They have AI chat. They have live chat in there, so it's good for contractors. Put them on the schedule, etc. They comes about for the appointment. The thing I love about this and think something people like is sending a notification before the technician even leaves with an ETA, and they can see kind of the route they're taking and etc. So clients want to see something clean, professional, and that's kind of interface friendly. So we get there. If it's a service call, you do your service, blah, 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 etc. You finish. If you got to come back for more service, then you come back. If it's a proposal, you take your estimates, your measurements, you take your pictures, and then you send them a proposal, later that day. I know a lot of, companies do proposals on the spot, like on a little tablet, etc. Good, better, best. But again, that's the cookie cutter method. It works for some companies. We like to be a little bit more customized and attention to detail, so we build it a little bit differently. So then, they receive the estimates. They receive, if it's an invoice or an estimate through Housecall Pro, they, let's say we focus on an installation, which is, the bigger ticket priced items. They accept the estimate. We see it. We do the contracts. After, their approval, after, do the sales and etc., you close it, uh, official contract signature, and then at that point you can start doing your permits. It's, we've done the mistake where you get ahead of the game and you try to do a permit before it gets signed, and they retract, and then now you lose time and resources and stuff. So always, 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 it's, don't go here, go here, here, here. It's going to take you longer. Don't jump the gun. It's enticing to kind of get ahead of the game, but with legalities and tens of thousands of dollars, you can't be doing that. So I try to be careful with that. Waiting, have it settled. I don't need to rush it, and then do the permit applications. With that comes the site plans, the Title 24 compliance, etc. We get it approved, put it on the schedule. It takes let's say a week. Um, at which point you call in your Hearst tester if it's ducted system and verify the leakage. Then you do the inspections, you close it out, and then that's a successful project. From the initial call to the closing. A couple of different steps, and it varies from client to client. Some people like to use loans or financing. Some people apply for the rebates, which then you got to do those applications if you got to do that. But we use, and people in California, if people when they stumble upon this, I would highly recommend Go Green Financing. It's a safe program. Only use credit unions, so it's 2 to 5 percenters at the highest, and then they do have some 0% interest loans as well for those qualifying clients. Which that's the main financing we use. We use two other ones that we don't have to get into. Um, but definitely want to have a financing partner, uh, at least two financing partners for your homeowners, and that's going to help you close a little bit more projects for sure. I've learned that not everybody wants to finance their HVAC. It's not the highest percentage, just because people have got other things to finance, and it's we live in a world where interest rates are pretty high right now. They haven't gone down as we're used to just yet. It's probably gonna be a hike in the next meeting that they're talking about, but that's neither here nor there. And yeah, so we close it, and then that's all through House Call Pro. The initial input of the client, the invoice, so the estimate, the invoice, they can pay through that portal, um, credit card, ACH, or they can just give you a check, whatever. Mark it off. They get a receipt, and then that same system sends them a review kind of request. So it kind of does it all as you kind of go, and then the whole history is there. It's a good system. I mean, I'm not getting sponsored by them, but they're I'm gonna see if I can get a referral code in case it gets used or something.
Sure.
But nah, yeah, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But yeah, man, that's kind of what we use for the CRM. A lot of my right now, I'm paying $0 marketing. Very fortunate to be in a spot where I don't have to spend marketing dollars for a little bit. We got picked by our distributor to be in one of their campaigns for free, where they paid for it. We just kind of attend to the leads. That was pretty good. We also got under a pretty good local government contract over the next coming years, which has helped with that kind of lead generation, which is pretty came at a pretty good time as well. And that's our main focus. The reason why I don't need to do marketing at the moment is because we have a track history of existing clients, organic clients, who are now at the stage where they're now coming back and redoing another project, and now it's kind of the ball has been rolling for us a little bit, where we're blessed to be in that position where two great lead sources, free leads that we've been servicing for years and years of hard work, that it's kind of showing now. And we are on a few directories, rebate, California First Energy, or Clean Energy Connection, or Tech Clean California. A lot of programs like that. um, and iMessage, man. iMessage is the homie. I use it a lot, with all my clients. Some clients have even done FaceTimes with me. I'm open to that. They can show me and I can just get my price. If you can do a FaceTime with one of your clients, they're probably gonna close with you, to be honest.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing that. So a lot of people don't like to use the phone so much. Some people deem it a little bit unprofessional to run a business on iMessage, which is understandable. But as long as you know how to use it properly and know how to like use the appropriate tools to get the point across, you don't you can use it, and again, once you get bigger as a company, it gets looked down upon. I mean, but you do your process, what works for you, and if it works, you know, capitalize on it, and there's always ways to kind of make it better. Um, but that's kind of the systems. A lot of AI. I mean, I have like a couple assistants on the AI stack that I always kind of like to use. And something I've like to do is I run it by two different models at the very least, and I always tend to get a different answer. And I tend to hybrid any information between those two answers to get an appropriate one, because it's not all said and done with an AI model. But I would say always rely on at least two if you want like a more precise answer. Because sometimes I've ran just for an experiment purposes like three, four models, and they all give me all different answers. So that's why I see, AI is only about 10% usage in the construction kind of market because of that reason. AI is very up and down with any construction, any hands-on kind of work. So it's not there yet for this industry, but if you know how to leverage it and use it right, it's a great tool, and you can cut a lot of office hours for sure. The one I would use, or I would say anybody, even just in the trades or any business, whatever, in just personal life, I use Whisper Flow, which is it's like a voice to text, but it's your computer. Click it, and then do you use it? Are you familiar with Whisper Flow? It saves hours. It saves hours. It's $20. Like just get it. It's a no brainer. So that's been helping me a lot for sure, man.
With the AI stuff, is that more like troubleshooting or for generating estimates, or like what are some of the things that you're putting in to try to get those different outputs?
I use it for technical specifics on equipments. Like, let's say I need a quick answer. I don't want to go through the whole specification sheet, 10 pages plus. Run it through the program, find me this specific. Let's say you're looking for a sear. You don't know how to, let's say somebody doesn't know how to read a spec sheet. Put it in there. It tells you exactly what it is. Or you can play with it. Give me the sear in this address at this specific time of the year, at this, temperature, and it calculates, gives you a good answer. But I also use it for like client facing inquiries or communications, because sometimes I've been in a place where it's a long, and again, I recommend this to anybody. It's a long fucking day. You're tired, and you get one of those fucking clients. At the end of the day, you're trying to log off, and they hit you with some sassy, sarcastic, backhanded, condescending comment, and then you're quick to respond in a negative way, or in a way that it's not, a 5-star experience for any client, either happy or upset. You got to deliver that 5-star customer service always, in my opinion. So when I see myself urging to be quick to type on a one of these messages or one of these communications, I try to take a step back, and I run the system, run the AI, I run the chat, I run the like the chat with the client, I run it through the module. I give it my thinking, and it's fucking beautiful. Like, you tell it how you're feeling about the situation, and it reads it, and it understands the tone of the text or whatever, and it gives you a de-escalated version of your response. Because I've run into situations, I just send something out, and then the client's upset, and then they'll have a bad remark or something. So you that's the easiest way to avoid a bad review or a bad experience with a client. Don't answer yourself. Acknowledge that it stirred something in you, that it's disrespectful or etc. Put it to the module, a robot that has no feelings, and have it give you the best answer as to how to acknowledge the client, how to turn it around, and how to potentially win it at the end of the day. So it does it all for you, and it just gives it to you. Now, I am not one of those people who is like brain rotted on AI where you just input its information, copy and paste. You have to read it, you have to modify it, and you have to make it sound like you a little bit. So don't go in there like put in all your inquiries and then just copy and paste it, and because then you're not gonna know shit about the sentiment, because we're talking about how do they feel, how does the client feel, you know what I mean? Like what they make decisions based off emotion sometimes. So if you identified, you alleviated their concern, their angeriness, and now they feel good with a sweet, super perfect response from the AI module, it works wonders, 100%.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that where for some reason, like there are sometimes things that I say, especially maybe over text, which I'm sure is like an everybody thing, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my personality, whatever. I can be a little blunt and direct, not in a disrespectful or a mean way. It's just how I am. Sometimes what I say gets lost in translation. And even if it's in a situation where it's like I don't feel emotionally, triggered or upset, or it's like bad news from the client, like so, sometimes it's just regular conversations and it gets a little like
Yeah,
confused about what I meant. But to have an AI that's like perfectly PR trained and it's going to give you this like you said, the emotionless response. It's like, dude, that might just be the way to go about doing it in some
it
cases for
is, man,
sure.
because you save yourself the headache, the turbulence, the whole fucking like dealing with it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you have to deal with it, and it's good, man. Claude, Gemini, Chat GPT is the triple stack. You don't need more than that if you're just getting into it. Um, and it uses emojis, man. I'm telling you, it uses emojis, de-escalates naturally, and it gives you two versions. Like you mean, if you're a more stern and direct guy, sometimes it gives you friendly and smooth. Sometimes it gives you direct to the point, but concise and everything. So it gives you options. So definitely some people, and this is what I think. The one thing I'm grateful about the whole like electrification, getting away from carbons, AI being in the trades is I'm only 27, so I got into this industry when I was a little bit younger. I'm getting the AI wave and the heat pump wave and the electrification wave in a area of the country where it's really looked up upon to kind of do these changes, and I'm glad I'm catching this kind of slow, steady wave up, learning it slowly but surely, kind of thing, to kind of be ready for when the permits are instant everywhere and price is good and clients have the money and the economy gets a little bit better and gas prices go a little bit down. Like people are gonna spend a little more in the next coming years for sure. So yeah, man, it's a good if you're in this industry and then you feel similarly in the same kind of boat. I would say keep hacking at it because it's gonna for sure pay off. Because nobody is all the older heads, like 50 plus people who are like the experts in this stuff in this fields. They're reluctant to move into this kind of whole world of AI stuff and electric stuff.
Yeah, definitely the edge that we have as a younger, I'm 27 too, so I'm seeing a lot of this stuff and we're kind of like in between worlds where it's like we didn't grow up with it, but we're learning the stuff now as it's coming out. And a lot of us are like, in careers or professions or stuff where it's like these things, like we're young enough to have the technical understanding to learn and use these skills and apply them to businesses that are run by people that are like, outdated or out of touch, so to speak. And it's like being able to bridge that gap is the opportunity, I think, for our generation, where it's like, if we
It
can
is.
take these new tools, implement them in old businesses, like, dude, there's a lot of money to be made doing that.
Dude, it's just getting started. That's the crazy thing. It's just getting started. We're in a good spot. Anybody else in hearing this and in that spot, like it'll pay off 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And it's, yeah, economy, all that other, global shit going on. Like it's a lot, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's a great test and a weeding out of the businesses that are going to make it and the ones that aren't. If you can make it through the next couple of years, like you're probably going to be all right. I would think, assuming things get better. If gets worse, we're all fucked, but whatever.
Yeah.
But if you can weather the storm, like this is the kind of downturns where it's like it really tests the operators, and it's like the businesses that survive were the good ones anyway, and the ones that were willing to learn, adapt, make changes, implement new stuff, stay ahead of the curve, like all the tests, you know, that you pass during this chapter where it's kind of hard, feels like you're fighting against the current sometimes. It's like, but when the getting is good, you're gonna fucking crush it, dude. So yeah.
It's gonna be like that bamboo growth. I'm a big believer in bamboo growth. You know, as if you're familiar with the reference, you know, it spends most of its time underground and then automatically shoots up like nothing happened. But it's all that work, all that understanding, all that foundation that's gonna make it worthwhile.
Hell yeah.
100%.
Right on, man. Sweet. Well, AJ, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on. Tons of nuggets and takeaways from this one. This was probably one of my favorite episodes. This is the kind of stuff I love talking about. So that
Well,
was
I'm
sweet.
glad. I'm glad I had the opportunity to share this time with you, man. Honestly, I had a different expectation of this podcast. I thought it was gonna, but I'm in a good way, as you mentioned. I'm glad we touched on points that are not just specific to this stuff. You know what I mean? Because you probably live, breathe, eat this stuff up, and so do I. So this was great, man. You beat my expectations to the podcast for sure.
Cool. Right on. I appreciate that. Stick around for a second after, and I'll just run through a couple things. But in the meantime, tell people where they can find you at. If you have social medias, if you want to shout out the company website or anything like that, and we'll put the links in the description when we publish it.
Yeah. Websites, you know, Villquin Air Service LLC.com, Villquin Air Service on Google, and, you know, Villquin Air Service on Instagram. Not super big on socials, but we have anything Villquin Air Service, you'll find our page. But our best guide is that Google business page and that website. It's where you'll find and see all the contact information, phone numbers, etc. Yeah.
Sweet. Right on. Thanks for coming on.